And then probably later I'll clip it up and then we'll make it into full videos. That'd be pretty cool. Oh, Max, you're here. Jovan Bradley's here, so you can get him up. If you could. Max? Max? Max, are you there?
Hi, yes, sorry.
Yeah, man. No problem.
I invited him to speak on stage.
Oh, okay. He's
but I'm
probably busy doing other stuff. It's fine.
trying to check why my timer isn't freaking working.
I don't know why I can't see that I am live. Oh, no. It does say that I'm live. Okay, cool. Just making sure. Let me see here. Let me just... Yeah, it's working. All right, I'm good. What's up, Jovan?
What's up?
Hey, buddy. Am I too quiet? Am I good? Am I loud or...
I mean, you sound fine to me.
Okay, cool.
Okay.
So how was your day, Jovan?
Bro, I slept most of it.
Hey, let's go. I worked most of it.
I think I woke up like 30 minutes ago.
Oh, my God. God, that would be nice.
It's that full-time life, baby.
Yeah, I know. Maybe one day I'll get there, but I don't hold any high hopes. I just have fun doing it. I'll just be a perma wage slave, if it will. Don't bother me none. Ramen says, hot take. Apples and peanut butter snacks. Smacks? Apples and peanut butter? That is not a hot take. That is a very lukewarm take. In fact, I agree with your take. That is not a hot take. Apples and peanut butter is delicious. I mean, it's just like sugar and fatty, and it's got everything. I bet you if you added salt to it, it would even be even better. How much you want to bet? How much you want to bet? I would bet you $1,000 it would taste amazing. You're gonna try it with salt? Oh my god, this dude's doing it live. We're doing it live.
Does anyone know how to make appear the option bar for something on OBS?
No clue. I don't use OBS.
I use OBS. What are you trying to do?
I have an option for the timer. Hold on, let me. Why I can't share my screen? Holy crap! Why? Okay.
All right, Ramen. Go ahead and try it. Tell me how it looks.
Let's see. Hold on, if I can put it. No.
Shit, what was I supposed to do?
Okay.
Make a Bowser.
There we go. So scene number 2. Okay, so here on the timer cam, I have the timer here, but I used to have the options for the timer right, like I had it pinned between the scenes and the sources so I could control the timer. but it's not letting me.
Your timer is in the. Wait, your timer is a source or a scene?
What is a source?
Oh, and you want the source separate, popped out separate from the other sources,
Yes, I
like
want
the
to
like the properties.
Yes.
I think they took. I'm pretty sure they took that away. Like you can
But I
open.
just had it. Like I pressed this button, and I fumbled it, and instead of pinning it back, I closed it because I'm dumb. But now I don't have the controls for the timer anymore. I can't start it, which is weird. Let me see text. We can create a new one. So I have the timer here, but it doesn't have the controls. I don't know.
Remove the black here. Interesting. Ah, there it goes. Okay.
Is a Mender playing Mario?
Hey, yeah, bro. I'm gonna play some fucking Mario while we debate.
That's hilarious.
Yeah, why not? Let's do it.
I can't play story-based games when I stream when I debate at the same time.
Game.
First of all, if you think Super Mario Sunshine doesn't have a fucking great story. Oh wait, am I allowed to curse?
Yeah, no, you're good. You can
Okay,
curse.
fucking sick.
Yeah, you can curse.
Dogs. There we go.
What's the rule on bathroom breaks? Because I got a very small bladder.
I mean, whenever. I mean, I'll cut out areas that are just like kind of whatever.
Make sure if I need to get up and go, that I can get up and go.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
I found it, but now seems not to be working.
Oh, shit. Yes, Mario Sunshine has a little bit of a story. A little bit. I'll give you that. But I mean, like a majority of it, you don't really have to pay attention to it. You can just kind of like, you know, you can just kind of play, you know. Like, I mean, what's the story where it's like Peach is just like help me, Mario, and then like.
You also have the doctor and the backpack and the creation of the backpack. Come on.
Yeah, but they're just like they're just like, hi, I'm here, and then you know you go do the thing, and it's like who cares who made the backpack? Professor Egad.
Which I am one of.
Are you really?
Yep, I'm an expert on Mario. You want to hear my absolutely perfect Super Mario impression?
Go for it, bro.
Hey, yo, it's me, Mario. I'm walking here. Perfect. Fucking, it's like you were transported right to the game.
All right, bro. That was perfect. Holy shit.
Okay. There we go.
Let me make sure you guys are coming through my my stream.
Yeah, bro.
Why are you connected? Ah, no, that's your screen.
Oh, do you guys want me to turn my camera? I can.
Should I turn off my here? I'll stop streaming and you can see the yeah, we'll do it that way. How's that? That good? If you want to watch the stream and just watch.
No, I was just wondering.
Oh, okay. Let me turn it back on.
Yeah. I was just wondering why you were twice on the stage.
Oh, yeah.
So your channel is First Amender on YouTube, right?
That's correct.
Okay. And your channel is Jovan Bradley on YouTube?
I think my YouTube is Jovan M. Bradley. My whole government.
Okay. All right. So when we're all set, I'll go ahead and start the stage for everyone.
Okay.
Okay.
I can hear your Mario game.
Hell yeah, bro. Dude, he's telling him how he's got a mom.
Having a whole conversation, but there's no story, right?
Imagine where like Mario is just like, bitch, did you fuck Bowser?
You wouldn't.
What? Did you fuck Bowser?
I'm just saying, you wouldn't. I would.
Probably no.
Just for the experience, right?
That'd be weird.
Just for
man.
the story.
Hey man, I'm not gonna knock you on it. It's funny.
I know you guys would. I know chat. I know that you degenerates in my chat would fuck Bowser.
Oh shit! I need to see your chat, bro.
My chat's gonna dog you the whole conversation.
Yeah, I know. I know.
I assume yours will do the same to me. But my
Dude,
chat is
I don't
my
have a
is
chat.
ruthless.
I don't have a chat. I have a.
Damn,
I have
rest in
a.
peace.
Yeah, I mean, like I'm new. I'm new to this scene, so like, you know, it's just gonna have very little, you know. So, you know, if you know, it is what it is.
Damn. Let me play you a sad violin song.
It's okay. It doesn't bother me. I just like doing it. It's fun. Here, let me. I'll pull up your. Are you on YouTube right now?
No, I'm only on Twitch. Okay. I should probably also stream to YouTube, but I don't have a background made for it. Well, I can make one fairly easily.
I need to like. I need to like call my ISP and get like faster upload speeds because like my upload speeds are trash. They're trash.
Mine aren't great either.
No.
Okay, let's make a background. 1v1. Let me get rid of the calling lines.
Let's take a look at Jovan Bradley here. Oh yeah. Man, you got 98. That's amazing, dude. You just like turn that shit off and
that's
then
light.
You just turn that shit on, you get 98. That's fucking great.
Yeah, that's actually light for a debate.
Well,
actually.
just watch me. Just wait. Just you watch me. I'll get there.
We'll see.
Or never. I don't care. Let me know when we're ready to start, okay, Max? I'm ready on my end.
We cannot hear you.
Are you talking about Max?
Yeah, he said, "Can we hear him?" And I said, "We cannot."
No, we cannot hear you. You're not even in the stage. There you are. Now I see you. Oh, okay, yeah. You're just the stream. Got it. Can you?
No, they don't. Yeah, there we go.
Jovan,
Aki.
let me ask you this: would you be so kind as to link my YouTube channel to your lovely, lovely chat? I'm sure they're quite lovely. And even though we have our differences, sometimes we can just listen in. You know, you could say no. That's fine. I'm not gonna dog you on it.
I'll actually drop a link to it.
Hey, Base, thanks, man. That's really nice of you.
Actually, I'll quickly go set up a Nightbot thing to. And I'll forget to undo it, but I'll go set up a Nightbot thing so that it regularly links your things. Since this is going to be a. What are we at? We're 2 hours. That's how long?
I don't know. I think it's like 2 or 3 hours. I don't know. We didn't have like a set time. Hey, man, whatever feels fluid. That's what we should do.
All right, because 3 is crazy.
Hey, man, I've had 4-hour long debates. Easily. You could tell that I'm prepping. You know, you could tell that I'm prepping for the debate. You know, I'm taking it very serious by playing Mario Sunshine. You know, you collect coins. There's, you know, it's a lot of capitalism because you're.
So, you know what I need to tell you? I was doing debate prep with my team, and we were watching some of your old streams.
Damn, bro, you fucking did me dirty. I didn't look up any of your shit.
I didn't say you couldn't. All I said was don't watch today. But I was watching some of your old streams, and they lost it.
Hello.
Topics, yo.
Can you hear me now?
Yeah, we can hear you.
Oh, okay. Hold on. Let me change. I'm not sure what's happening with Discord and my good mic. But yeah, I was making the intro and I kept yelling hello because you started talking over like the intro.
Dang.
All right. Let me move the sound to my headphones and we're ready to go. Thank you everyone for your patience. This is Max, your moderator, and today we're going to have a debate between Jovan Bradley defending socialism and First Amender defending capitalism. For you, those of you who don't know, MDD is a neutral platform where we hold debates on religion, politics, and science. We are present on Discord as well as YouTube, where you can find us on Modern Day Debate on YouTube. If you want to join, the registration for the server is open, and you can definitely find someone to have a debate with over 5,500 users. The Modern Day Debate Discord is a platform that hasn't stopped growing for a very long time. So today we have Jovan Bradley and First Amender. Who of you is going to go first?
Well, I'm on the affirmative of capitalism, and he's on the affirmative of socialism. I suppose it would be a good idea maybe if we flipped a coin.
I'd be fine with flipping a coin.
All right. I'm going to go ahead and pull up
Okay, hold on. Yeah, I can go get a
coin. Oh, you got a
Give
coin?
Just...
All right, cool. You do it, Max. I was going to pull up something on my screen. No problem.
Right, let me put my webcam, my big one. Okay, there we go. So we have the 10 peso Uruguayan coin. You have Jaguar or our coat of arms. As Jovan is our guest and you're a local, let's give Jovan the choice. Coat of arms or Jaguar?
Let's go Jaguar.
Jaguar. Let's go. and its coat of arms. Right, so first amender, you will take the first 5 minutes. Let me put the timer back on. All right, there we go. So 5 minutes on the clock. You can see the timer, correct?
Yes.
I can, yeah.
All right. So as soon as you start speaking, I'll hit the go on the timer.
All right. Well, greetings, everybody. I am First Amender, and I'm here to argue in favor of capitalism. I'm a new YouTuber, and I love to argue with people. And if you like to hear me argue with people, you should subscribe to me on YouTube. Now, onto my intro. In defining my terms for the subject, I offer 3 simple distinctions. Capitalism is the private ownership of the means of production. Communism is the classless, moneyless, stateless society. And socialism is the workers' ownership of the means of production. There are many who make arguments that move to the system into socialism and stay there instead. I do not think that Jovan is in fact one of them. Or come up with another argument for the woes of capitalism as a necessity for changing the entirety of society. While I would agree that there would be an overall change in the system, is likely going to be inevitable, and that there is going to be genuine issues under capitalism, I do not believe socialism is the solution to this problem. I am also arriving at the conclusion that socialism was attempted to its fullest extent, though, resulting in state capitalist models that ultimately having the workers owning the means of production, requiring severing the private ownership by the bourgeoisie, required a giant state apparatus to transfer it. Because of this apparatus effectively becomes a state capitalist system inherently due to having it make the transference a reality. Transferring the ownership of the means of production ultimately becomes impossible without making strict authoritarian system that removes people's ability to make the things that they desire, and it destroys fundamental macroeconomic principles for a worse-off outcome, such as the need to innovate, the invisible hand, the self-interested individual, and more. The only reason why we care about one economic model over another is ultimately whether or not it fulfills people more or less based on the fact that we live in a finite society where objects must move from point A to point B in a Euclidean sense. Given that we inherently have this objective limitation from person to person, what is the most efficient system can actually satisfy the desires of man to the fullest extent? When we observe socialist societies, or rather societies where socialism was attempted, even when left alone to its own devices, as in not stopped by any capitalist country like the United States, often results in far worse outcomes than any capitalist countries. The socialists will tell you that this is because the United States intervened in the socialist countries, and I would argue against this on 2 separate points. Number 1, not all socialist countries were intervened by the United States. When we look at some models and attempts at pushing socialism into communism, China was left alone through its own devices, completely unimpeded by the United States, even up to the 1970s through the atrocities of Mao Zedong. Yet the socialists wouldn't claim this, as it ultimately was an authoritarian system that was antithetical to the ideas of communism being classless. Yet I posit to you, this is incorrect, given that something must transfer the ownership of the means of production from the private ruling class to the working class, which ultimately leads into the giant state apparatus that is antithetical to the lack of class, because those who control it ultimately lead to a class society that is far, far worse than capitalism, that is good from taking goods from point A to point B that must satisfy the people, yet the goods flowing from point A to point B end up as a trickle in comparison to the ridiculous proportions of the selection of plenty in capitalist systems. Number 2, socialism is incompatible with everyone. Given that you must purge the bourgeoisie out of their wealth to transfer it to the workers, it effectively becomes antithetical to existence itself. Even if we are to assume that everything was tyrannical in the kings of the past, as the socialists compare, if there exists this ruling class, indeed they are quite ruling, and the satiated population isn't interested in uprooting their lives, realizing that they find themselves up against an enemy that wish to, quote, consume them, sometimes quite literally, quote, eat the rich, unquote. As they will tell you, if there are predications of the socialists to eat the rich, then indeed the ruling class would find a vested interest in physically stopping socialism where it springs up, for their very existence is at stake. Indeed, what difference is it if the lion thrashes when bit by hyenas? Did the lion not attack the hyenas in defense? There is no different from the way that capitalism fights back against socialism should they desire to, quote, not be eaten. Then certainly that there is a vested interest in removing power, aka trade wars, that substantially substantially reduce their power and foothold over societies and encourage trade in countries that keep the ruling class available. Because socialism is ultimately hostile to all nations around it, and given that socialism results in worse outcomes for the many, and that it has been tried in over 57 countries and failed in every single one, save for perhaps Vietnam, Cuba, and Venezuela, though I doubt I would consider any of these to be a success when compared to any modern capitalist nation, I posit that the 20th century has happened, and that capitalism in combination with social safety nets is by far the best system we currently have. But assuming a material dialectic, I could easily argue a technocratic oligarchy where people don't have to work much due to extreme automation, but that would be an entirely different discussion. In short, socialism bad, capitalism good, but let's hear out our interlocutor in this argument.
All right. For those of you in the audience, if you have questions for both of our debaters, you can tag at MDD stage questions and the bot, and we will go over those questions at the end of the open discussion. So, Jovan, 5 minutes on the clock. When you start speaking, I will start the timer.
Yeah, so I like to also define these terms very specifically before a debate. So I pretty much vibe with First Amenders' definitions. Capitalism, I would say, is an economic system based on the private ownership of the means of production and their operation for profit, while socialism is an economic system in which the means of production and exchange are collectively owned by the working class. I like to distinct what those means of production are. These would be land, labor, capital, and tools and technology. So these 5 things would be just a basis of the means of production. I am not somebody who's looking to keep the interim socialism. I would more accurately define myself as a council communist, where I'm looking for the workers to have immediate democratic control over basically every aspect of our lives. The workers being the 99% of people who would determine everything for the 100%. The distinction of capitalism or of socialism to remove the bourgeoisie to fold into the proletariat would then mean that everybody gets a say, not just some people, because the bourgeoisie would become proletariat under a socialist system. I do think that capitalism is currently the broken and flawed system. We can talk about all we want about socialist countries that have failed. Capitalism is currently failing. It's currently failing multiple people. 63% of all new wealth generated in the world went to 1% of the population. 14 million Americans are in medical debt. 30 million are uninsured. 40 million are underinsured. 44% of all single-family homes were bought up by private equity firms where they can raise the rent exuberantly and sort of oust out poor families from their homes or from the communities that they live in. 1 in 5 children go to bed without food every night. 17 million households experience food insecurity. 63% of American workers can't afford a $500 emergency expense. There are 600,000 houseless people and 16 million unoccupied homes. It's very clear that the system of capitalism is failing, and I don't believe that the system will correct itself even with enough social safety nets. I believe what will always happen under a capitalist system is that crony capitalism or corporatism will always end up making its way through the belly of the beast. Basically, we're always going to see a world where corporations are able to influence policy, and I believe this to be a negative. I believe socialism will lead the country and therefore the rest of the world to more economic equality, more worker empowerment, a better social welfare system, and it'll address the ethical concerns that I have with capitalism, which primarily boil down to exploitation of the worker, as well as issues with environmental capitalism and how capitalism is slowly killing the planet. When I talk about socialism, I don't really care about whether it has or has not worked previously, but we will address that in like the back and forth. I really care about like what system provides the tools necessary for social welfare, right? I don't see this happening in capitalism anywhere unless you are in the top echelon of people, right? We can talk all day and long that American capitalism is working, but American capitalism is affecting the global South in just terrible ways. The average median income in the world is $3,000. That's the average median income. And there's almost nowhere in the world where that's going to see prosperity. I think when we look at whether socialist systems have been successful. We tend to look at these via capitalist means. We look at the metrics of capitalism to determine whether socialism is working. I disagree with this as well on like a fundamental basis. I believe that if we look at sort of actual quality of life metrics in places where we don't see interference, we are going to see that these quality of life metrics outpace the US and outpace almost every capitalist country. So this would be things like the fact that Cuba has a 100% literacy rate, or that Cuba has a higher life expectancy than the US, or a lower infant mortality. Just metrics like this, when we analyze actual quality of life metrics, they tend to be better than in capitalist countries. So again, long story short, capitalism bad, socialism will be a way to lead to more equitable systems. 30 seconds left, but that's it for me.
Thank you very much. And now we're going to go into the back and forth. I will remind you, everyone in the audience down there, if you want to ask a question to any of the debaters, tag the bot at MDD stage questions and ask your question. Also include who the question is for, and we will get into that after the open discussion. So let me reset the timer, 50. There we go. And just so you know, if you're during the discussion, you're going to call a fallacy, as a moderator, I will hold you to explain the fallacy that you called out. So please, let's try to keep it civil, respectful, try to keep the interruptions to a minimum, and we will start the open discussion. Take it away.
So Jovan, I got a question for you.
Yeah, sure.
You want it to, you said 100%. 100% what? Communism?
I'm a council communist, so I would like it to eventually move from a socialist system to a council communist system.
What is a council communist system?
Yeah, so council communism is basically communism that focuses on worker control. So it's going to be let me just pull it up because I don't want to get it wrong. Worker control. So the core principles of council communism is that workers should directly manage their workplaces and the broader economy through councils. Direct democracy. So it's going to advocate that the workers have a direct say. So one vote, one say, unless they vote in like a chair, which is usually okay as long as there's enough ways for the chair to be unvoted. Basically, anti-statism. So it does not want to see a transitional state control. Although I don't necessarily know that it won't that will be possible, but that's what council communism pushes for. And then like no political parties of any kind.
Okay. What if I want to own a private company?
System.
What if I want?
Yeah, you wouldn't be able to. You wouldn't be able to do that.
Okay, so we currently have companies that are privately owned. So What would you do in a situation like that where it's like you have to transition? How do you do that?
Yeah, all the private owned companies would be given over to the workers who work at those companies.
I'm saying, how would you do that?
Number of different ways. Just depends on what the people want to see. I mean, we can do it where everything becomes a worker-owned co-op. We can do it where it becomes more like
but
a typical
I'm a private business
fashion.
owner.
Yep.
I don't want to give it away. It's been in my family for 150 years. I don't want to. Okay, you just take it. All right, cool.
Yes.
So like, I have a really hard time with that idea because like I believe that people have a right to their own private property, which would include personal and private property.
I go with the traditional Marxist sense where the only private property we're talking about is private property of the bourgeoisie. So we're talking about the private property that would control those means of production. So anything that is commodified for like commodified resource needed for living, and then those means of production that I stated: land, labor, capital, tools, and technology.
So societies, they get better when that country has a government that respects right to private property. This is in fact the case, and it can be observed in the Human Development Index. In fact, it's one of the positive metrics in the Human Development Index. So I'm asking you, like, if we look at the countries that are like the highest quality of living today, they all have private property respect, which includes businesses, which includes homes, which includes landlords, and includes all those things. So I'm asking you want to divest that so that way it goes to the workers by force, if necessary.
Yeah, so I would disagree with this notion that like the countries that are doing well are because of like capitalism, especially when we see that these countries, even when you look at the Human Development Index, like the countries that they list as the countries that are the most developed have gotten that way by the exploitation of resource theft from the global South. So like in order for a capitalist country to maintain its foothold and to maintain the fact that capitalism is an ever expanding economic system that needs to consistently grow for a profit model, right? The only way to do this is by stealing resources, stealing labor from the global South. It's the only way it's ever been able to do it. We see this in the destruction of Latin America. We see this in the destruction of Africa. We can see this globally, like that countries like the US, countries like England, places like these have decimated. So I would just reject this notion. I'd say the only way, I don't really care if like one country is doing well. I want to look at the big global picture. And if one country can only do well by destroying another, I don't think that country is actually doing well.
But globally, the world has gotten richer. The quality of life has improved globally.
Sure. If I have a plate full of shit and I take 25% of the shit off the plate, I still have a plate full of shit.
Okay, but so you're arguing for taking... You're arguing for taking that plate of shit and making it into more shit is what I'm saying.
I would
because
disagree
you have the highest quality of living societies, and you're saying that they have to divest the private ownership by the Human Development Index.
Yeah, but by what the Human Development Index, like when they're looking at quality of life, what are they looking at when they're measuring quality of life?
There's
like
a bunch of things that they look at.
Because we can look at healthcare. The US is nowhere near we're number 11 in healthcare from all developed nations. I wouldn't say that's a high quality of life when again we have people dying of being uninsured and they have to like go to what is it? GoFundMe in order to pay for medical expenses. We can look at even when the HDI dimensions is long and healthy life, knowledge, and a decent standard of living, which I would argue that like America is not number one in any of these, and most highly developed capitalist countries are only going to be number one again because they are destroying other countries to do that.
Okay, you're going all sorts of, you brought up like 3 or 4 different topics, and I can talk about each one, but I really want to kind of break this down, right? You keep bringing up that they have destroyed the third world, right? I don't disagree with you.
I didn't say third world. Global South.
The global South. That's fine. They've destroyed the global South, but I'm saying that globally it's gotten richer. And then the second thing that I'm pointing out is the ones that have the highest quality of living societies are ones that respect the right of private property, which includes personal and private property, right? Like the land as well as personal property. And in terms of like the HDI is just basically measuring how long your life is, measured like life expectancy is at birth. Knowledge is measured by mean years of schooling and expected years of schooling, as well as a standard of living, which is measured through GNI per capita in PPP terms using US dollars. So there's our HDI. And then we look at the countries that have a very high HDI. Indeed, the quality of living is very high. I don't see these socialist countries being quite well. Now, I agree with you. There's probably like trade barriers and stuff that makes it worse for them. Yes, I agree. But there are unimpeded countries that did make it a lot worse. So I'm asking you, why do you want to divest the ownership of the means of production to the working class if it literally makes the world worse?
Yeah, I feel like I kind of addressed this, and you partially agreed with me on the addressal here. You said you agree that capitalism has decimated the global South. Now, even if the global South is getting better, it's still being decimated, right? And I don't know how much I'd argue that it's getting better, because the only time we see it better is when we sans and remove the capitalist interference, right? And even places like the Congo are not getting better. Places like Haiti are not getting better, right? So in that regard, I would say that this is still proving my point, right? You said that the HDI, these are the indicators. Well, long and healthy life. Again, Cuba has a higher life expectancy than the U.S.
I agree with you. Those are genuine problems with the United States, but that doesn't mean that you... Go ahead.
Hold on. It's not just the U.S., right? Hong Kong is number 1 in life expectancy, right? Number 1. China is currently moving itself to a more nationwide socialist system, right? It's currently doing it. So I would disagree here that this claim that like the Human Development Index is going to show that capitalist countries are doing better is not entirely the case. And I feel like it's ahistoric to deny that these countries are doing well because of the way that they destroy other countries to maintain their quality of life. I think it's totally okay that there may even be a slight dip in quality of life if it means every country becomes even on the playing field, right? I know I don't see this happening because we have the technology to provide all of these resources for everybody. We just don't do it. We have the technology, we have the resources, we have the means to do it. We even have the infrastructure that we could realistically provide all of this stuff to people. We just don't. So I would just argue against that on those basic tenets.
You're going all over the place, and I'm trying to like break it down exactly what you're saying.
I literally answered the three things you said. That's not going all over the place.
Let's do one thing at a time then.
Sure. Well, then don't combat with three things.
Let's look at global wealth.
Sure.
It's gone up, right?
Sure.
Okay. You're saying that things have gotten worse because we have been raping the global south, right?
Correct.
But it's gotten wealthier.
Yeah, global wealth is going to be highly skewed by capitalist countries.
Okay, if we're taking it from the global south,
mm-hmm.
then it would serve to say that they would get poorer, right?
No, because they're still going to receive some benefit. Like it's not going to be 100% without exchange, because otherwise capitalists wouldn't be able to claim that they're not doing it. Right. So they do allow for some redistribution, but it's nowhere near enough, and it's nowhere near what these countries like earn and what they are owed because of the taking of their own resources. Global wealth, I just want to mention the global wealth thing is not a metric we use to determine success of socialism. We wouldn't use global wealth. Socialism is not a for-profit model.
Again, I mean, I brought up the Human Development Index that's based off of the World Health Organization. So you use the World Health Organization for valid statistics, and I would imagine the HDI would be a good metric to work off of. And what are the highest quality of living societies according to the HDI? What are we looking at?
It's mostly going to be societies that have had very little interference from other. Or I won't say very little interference, but it's going to be countries that are like pretty higher capitalist countries.
I agree.
But when we look at the lower countries on the HDI, it is countries that have been destroyed, like been quite literally colonized and destroyed.
I agree with you. I don't like the foreign policy of these countries, right? Like I'm not in favor of like harming, worse off countries. That's fine. But you can't sit there and say that, if we just move over to socialism, all of a sudden the resource extraction thing is no longer a problem. What? Because you need to get resources. What is the quality of life that you have? Do you have an air conditioner?
Sure.
Do you have a refrigerator?
Sure.
Do you have a carpet?
Why wouldn't I have these things under a socialist system?
What?
Why would I not have these things under a socialist system?
I don't think you would. In fact, that's not the norm. The norm is not having those things. And in fact, to have all of those things, you have to basically extract resources from a poor country to have it happen.
This idea that the norm is to not have these things, like these countries that don't have them because their infrastructure has been decimated. Like, what do you mean? Countries where it's like predominantly mountainous regions, which are a lot of them in the global south, won't have easy access to electricity, right? This isn't an issue with like capitalism or socialism. They're highly mountainous regions that don't have easy access to this.
Yeah,
and they haven't been able to build the easy access because even when they do receive a little bit of benefit, capitalism comes in and destroys it. So like, I don't know where we're getting this idea
that's what I'm saying. It's a point A that things are finite on Earth. Things have to go from point A to point B in order for people to satisfy their life, right?
Yeah.
Okay. So under a socialist model, it doesn't matter if the workers own the company or if it's like the government making a decision, or if it's private ownership, you still have the same problem.
No,
it doesn't
like I said,
change.
we have the resources and infrastructure to give these things to people. We have that.
Has the USSR ever left the countries in destitution?
What does this matter? I've said in my opening statement, I don't really care how these other socialist countries have survived, right? I think it's a bit of a red herring when I say here are the tenets I would go to, and instead of arguing against those tenets, we say, well, it didn't work over here, it didn't work over here. Okay, well, we know the failures of those systems. Hold on, so we know the failures of those systems. We know how those systems failed, right? So we can combat how those systems failed with enough foresight knowledge.
Yeah.
Right?
So let me give you a little bit of foresight knowledge here then, right? Let's think about some foresight knowledge. When you divest the ownership of the means of production from the private ruling class, internationally, investors run for the hills. Do you know why? Because their property will get wait, then now you have a problem. Now you have a problem with leverage. Now basic businesses no longer can actually operate properly.
How do you think
what's leverage?
Operation
Stop. What's leverage?
What do you mean what's leverage? This is a non sequitur.
That is not a non sequitur. No. It's incredibly important.
I've said multiple times you're analyzing socialist countries via capitalist metrics like
Are you saying that there should be no money?
Like that. Yeah, there absolutely should be no money.
How the fuck does that work?
A business should only be as valuable as its value to the community.
How do you deal with the invisible hand?
How do you deal with the invisible hand?
Yeah, how do you deal with that?
What do you mean?
The invisible hand is like a Adam Smith idea.
Uh-huh.
Do you know what it is?
No, explain it to me.
So people have their own self-interest. Okay.
Uh-huh.
And when they have their own self-interest, they go get stuff with the self-interest, right? And as a result, the collection of people where they have their own self-interest trying to get things, that basically creates a demand. And when there is a demand, there are people that seek to make profit off of that in a selfish way. And so they seek to satisfy that demand, right?
Yes,
and so things just, I understand that. I'm saying, how do you deal with that? Right now, we don't actually have to manage the supply and demand of things from like a central model. It does it on its own. It doesn't require a single actor. It just requires it requires each individual acting at their own greedy selfishness, and that it actually outputs to something. So like when people want food, there's going to be a guy that's like, I can make a lot of money off of like supplying food. So I'm asking, how do you satisfy for that? You're just saying that it should be a central economy?
I don't think it's going to exist. I think, again, you're trying to say, how does socialism account for this thing that only exists in a free market system? Well, we are no longer going to have a free market system. This thing is not going to exist anymore.
Okay, but then now you have if you're used to like having a huge selection at like being able to just like buy stuff, then that's going to be under a capitalist model, given the current quality of living that you live. Okay. Under a socialist system, you would have much, much less to choose from. Much less.
What does that matter?
It's not even close.
And
it's a lower quality of life. It makes things worse.
Hello.
That's ridiculous.
One at a time, please.
Yeah, I would just argue.
Going great. So.
Yeah, sure. I would say this is a ridiculous argument, right? You're saying that just selection means that we have a better quality of life, but where's that quality of life when the selections are essentially the same with very minute differences, right? I have a higher quality of life because I can buy essentially the same type of car from 6 different companies. Like I have a higher quality of life because I can choose McDonald's, Burger King, or Wendy's that essentially make the same product. I would disagree with this fundamentally. What's going to provide a higher quality of life is that if the people that can't choose those things get to actually have the things that will allow them to live and to prosper.
That's just an argument of social safety nets. I can do that with social safety nets. I don't have to remove the entirety of the ownership. No, it has been done in many European countries and Canada. It's worked. It worked.
Yes, those countries
right?
Also
and we do, you know, and honestly, the reality is, the reality is that like The only reason why that's an issue in the United States is because we have Republicans and they're like really dumb. That's it.
Wait,
that's literally
it's
it.
Not just an issue. It's not just an issue with the U.S. Canada also decimates the global South. Norwegian state countries also decimate the global South. This idea that it's just America is not true. So again, all of these countries that are able to provide these quality of life and provide all of these resources are able to do so because of the theft of resources from other places. So cool. Maybe
Except
Canada,
they're getting richer. Okay, let's say if I went to your house and I took your car. Let's say I stole it. Are you richer or are you poorer?
Poorer.
Poorer. Okay. We're stealing from the South, right?
Correct.
Are they richer or are they poorer?
They have more money now because they are outputting more.
How?
So
How does that work?
Because the more you
We stole
even
from
if
them.
you're getting even if you're getting pennies. So when I say steal, I obviously don't mean like everything is being taken like by force, right? They are getting compensated. They're getting very little compensation for the work they're putting out, and we're forcing them to work more and output more. So the compensation is going to grow, even though the compensation is not commensurate with the labor that they're putting in, which I'm sure you would agree with. Do you disagree that the global South is getting paid equitably for the labor that they're engaging in?
No, of course not. No.
Okay, so then this idea that just because they're making more is I don't think it's a good argument here, because they're just outputting more. Their output has risen 40% in the last, 3 or 4 years? So like, of course they're ending up with some more in the pocket, but that's because they're being forced to work more.
Well, again, that actually has more to do with like how there's like higher levels of productivity in the United States than almost any country. And when you observe that, I do agree with you that like the amount of productivity that's being done isn't akin to what is actually being outputted to what they're being paid. I would agree with that part. But like, again, like this is just a matter of like understanding how automation works and how like modernization of economies work. But you're arguing for divesting that so that way the workers could own the means of production. But I have zero empirical metric where that is in fact the case. So you want me to plunge head deep into quixoticism in favor of an ideology that I don't even know whether or not that it could work. Let me ask you this. Do you think...
do this all the time.
Let me ask you this. Do you think that if we're going to make a giant change to a system, do you think that we should know that it works?
No, I think we all the time have systems that are created without seeing direct examples of it. Like it takes.
What if it involves the entire economy? Do you think that we should check?
We've done this before.
We could use computer models.
We've physically done this before, right? When like the
Socialism?
U.S. Revolution, there was no real example of a constitutional republic like the U.S. became, and there was no real example of like national banking in the way that the U.S. started national banking in the 1700s, right? But we did it anyway, right? We like this idea that you need to like leading by example exists for a reason, right? I think this idea that you have that.
But socialism was tried, was it not?
I would disagree that the socialism I'm purporting was tried.
Did they not make an attempt?
The USSR didn't. The USSR
was an attempt made.
An attempt on socialism made, but this would be discounting the fact that there's multiple socialist systems. So just because one version of socialism has been tried does not mean that it's encountered every version of socialism.
But it was tried in 57 different countries in different flavors.
Yeah,
and it failed in all of them.
By the way,
it failed.
You made the claim. You made the claim in your opening statement that the U.S. there are countries that haven't been involved with via, I wouldn't say the U.S., but via capitalist interference. What country are you talking about? China was left alone, entirely alone,
pretty much for 30 or 40 years under Mao Zedong. It was completely the only instance where they actually did any amount of intervening was where there was negotiation between, I think, Nixon and Mao Zedong, but they were left alone. They were completely untouched.
This is not true.
Where?
This is ahistoric.
Explain.
Why do you think Mao had the policies he had? That's because previously, before Mao even came in, China was being interfered with. Like that's why yes, it was.
It was.
And we even see this in China relations.
Give me an example.
Since 1940, yes, between 1949 and 1971. when Mao was still in charge, the United States conducted, I'll give you the direct list. The United States conducted offshore line military alliances through their eastern and southern border. They allied with Japan, South Korea, and the national government of the ROC in Taiwan. The United States formed the Southeast Asian Treaty Organization. Right? They like this
none
is
of
all
this is
involved.
intervening.
This is all
No,
interference.
none of
Yes,
that is
it
interfering with that.
All of that is interference. What are you talking about?
They were free to do as they saw fit. They were largely left alone by the United States.
No, these were all attempts to disrupt and destabilize China and weaken China. All of them.
The reason why Mao Zedong even got as far as he did was because the United States completely ignored him.
No,
he killed millions and millions of people, and he tried to bolster his own power by pushing off resources that the Chinese people desperately needed for countries that were much more better off, like Norway.
Yeah, no, so this you're just being ahistoric right
That's
now.
That's not ahistoric. I have a book for it. It's called Mao.
I gave you the direct examples of the U.S. interfering. The U.S. also consistently pushed its allies not to engage in diplomatic relations with China. Consistently.
That's not true.
That is, yes, it is.
Where are you getting that?
This is from AFE Asia.Columbia.edu. It's U.S.-China relations since 1949.
Post it in side chat. I'll take a look at it.
Sure, but this idea that China had not had interference from the U.S. is not true. It's not. I don't know why you keep saying that it is.
I don't believe you.
Sure. Okay, great. I'll post it in the side chat.
We are about the half time mark.
But even regardless of of China or whatever, there are other countries that were also left alone. But that's irrelevant.
Which ones? No, it's not. It's very relevant. It is incredibly relevant. If the point that I'm trying
the point that I'm trying to bring to you is that when we look at the math, when we look at everything as they are in terms of quality of life and how it works, like honestly, tell me, Jovan, would you rather live in Cuba or the United States right now? Let me ask you that.
Would I rather? I mean, I would rather live in a country that has not been decimated by a 70-year-long embargo.
Okay, fair enough. Right? Do you think?
But again, you're leaving out context when you ask these questions.
I'll grant you that yes, the United States did destroy Cuba by creating the embargo, but at the same time, you have to understand that when you have like the problem with the Cuban Missile Crisis, why the hell would we trade with that country when like the very existence of the United States is threatened?
The only reason the existence of the United States was threatened was because the United States occupied Cuba from 1898 to 1950. What was it? 3?
No, it was threatened because the United States put nuclear bombs next to Russia. That's why.
Because Russia allied with Cuba because Cuba was occupied by us, right? Again, we keep leaving out a lot of context, but all of this is you said.
But I can acknowledge all of that.
Hold on.
Everything that I say makes sense.
But right now, you're just moved. The goalpost has moved so far. Your initial claim was, why would we try socialism when it's always failed, even in cases of non-interference? And then I show you that even in these cases of non-interference, there was interference, and you go, well, none of that actually matters. Here's what actually matters, right? Like if we're gonna talk about interference of these countries, we have to talk about the fact that the only one you've given was China. I've given clear examples of U.S. even had military operations going on right along China to try to influence China. But you name me another country that was not interfered with via capitalism.
That's bullshit.
I gave you the source.
Let's take a look here.
The United States constructed an offshore line of military alliances along China's eastern and southern borders. These included the U.S. alliances with Japan, South Korea, and the national government of the ROC.
I did not know this part. Okay, that's fine. Fair. Fine. I can concede to the point, and I won't use that as an argument. I'm still not convinced that socialism is the move. Because I'm still stuck.
Only been interfered with. How do we know?
I mean, there are countries where it was not interfered and it still sucked ass.
Which ones?
It's awful. And hell, I mean, like, even if you look at like the most powerful one, which would have been the USSR, it's a fucking nightmare in the USSR. It was awful. Have you seen the grocery stores? Like, there was like a video of one of the grocery stores in the early 1980s of what a grocery store looked like in Russia. There was also even like, I think it was like a great war, a war general that came from USSR USSR to the United States and looked at the selection that was available to us. And they said, if the Russians knew what kind of selection Americans have, there would have been a revolution the next day. I don't even think you understand just the level of privilege that we're at.
Hold on, you're arguing about the selection. During the 80s, the USSR was eating the exact same caloric intake as the US, and they had a higher nutritional diet than the US.
Yeah, they can choose between the shit meat and like the shit pasta versus like us, where we can choose from Gouda, Swiss. We can choose anything, man.
Hold on a minute.
One at a time,
it was
please.
higher. They were eating the same amount of calories, and they had a more nutritious diet than us. Via our own nutrition metrics, they were eating more nutritional than us. This came out of a direct CIA report from January 8th, 1983. Like directly, the CIA said they are eating. So this idea that they were all yes, there was the famine, right?
People
the famine,
are going to be fatter when there's more selection.
I don't deny that there was a famine, right? But if they're eating the same amount, I'm not talking about fatter. It was the same amount of calories. They were eating a more nutritious diet. I can even give you the exact metrics that they marked, that the CIA marked on this. So this idea that they were all starving in the USSR is quite literally
I didn't make the argument that they're starving. I never made that argument, by the way.
I'm sorry. Repeat what your argument was about food. That's right.
I was saying that their selection is fucking awful. It looked like shit. Have you seen what it looks
What does the selection
like?
matter if they're eating and it's more nutritious?
I want to pick a different type of cheese. I want to pick a different type of bread. I want to be able to have do I want a BLT today or do I want a chicken salad? Do I want to have a Caesar salad or do I want, dude, do you understand that you get one fucking choice? It sucks. People hate it. Why do you think people leave Cuba to go to the United States? It fucking sucks. That's why it sucks. The selection sucks.
I'm going to disagree with this in a couple. I'm going to disagree with this in a couple facets, right?
I don't really care about selection. Have you met?
I don't care about selection when we have a bunch of people who don't have food.
What?
They're food insecure. I would so much rather they be given food.
Wait, do you think food insecure means they have no food?
Food, it depends on what metric you're looking at, but food insecurity means that they don't have as much access to healthy,
nutritious foods.
Yes, this is an issue.
I agree with you. That is an issue, but you sat there and said that they're going hungry, but the reality is they're not. There is
global hunger because global hunger
I agree with you. Global hunger is a thing, but I'm talking about the United States.
Okay.
And you said that we're food insecure. The United States is food insecure, and I'm telling you that doesn't mean they're hungry.
They are still hungry. Like if we're looking at like U.S. hunger, right? Hunger still affects millions of people in the U.S.
So are you aware of SNAP benefits?
I am aware of SNAP benefits. They don't
okay.
work.
They don't work?
No, I would argue
it's one of the most successful one of the most successful government programs ever. And you're telling me it doesn't work?
Yeah, if you would let me.
What are you talking about? It feeds millions of people.
Amender. You gotta let me finish the sentence because I'm like in the way of explaining as I'm talking.
Go ahead.
Right? When I say SNAP benefits don't work, what I'm saying is they are not comprehensive enough to accurately give it to everybody who needs it. That's what I'm saying. Even though we have the resources to feed everybody in the US, SNAP benefits do not go far enough in provide. I've been on SNAP before. I've literally lived on SNAP. And I'm going to say SNAP is not this amazing.
We can then have that discussion about
perfect.
Then we can have the discussion as to like improving SNAP, but you don't want to improve SNAP. You want to destroy the entire system and build it from the ground up. When I'm like, hey, let's improve SNAP.
Yeah, what? I feel like this is a heavy ignoring of what I'm like actually saying. Right, I'm saying that right now in the world, hunger is an issue. Right now, currently.
Yeah,
now you can say, well, sure, let's only talk about the US. But I mentioned at the beginning of my opening
you talked about food insecurity, so I put you back into the US. So go ahead and continue.
Yeah, I mentioned at my beginning of my statement that like I don't just look at it from a US metric. I look at it from a global metric when I'm looking at all of these things. Right? I'm looking globally at how does capitalism affect a country. Now, the US may be doing better than most countries when it comes to global hunger. The US may be doing so much better, right? But the only reason the U.S. is able to do better is because of the theft of resources. Like we're right back here. The only way the U.S. has been able to maintain is the theft of resources. And I show you evidence of a. I show you evidence.
They're richer now.
What are you talking?
They're
we've
richer
already
now.
gone through this, Amender. They're richer because they're outputting more. They're outputting 40% more. I don't know why we have to be that here.
Then that. Hold on. First of all, it doesn't matter if you're making $1 million a day. If I stole your car, you still lost. You still lost out.
I can't. Is this for real?
Yes.
We've already discussed that the reason why these countries in the global south are doing better is because they are being forced to produce more, so they're getting a little bit back for the production. But yes, they are being forced.
It's a mutual thing.
I'm sorry.
It
Do you think
ends
it's
up being
mutual? You think it's mutual in the Congo? You think the Congo is mutual?
No.
You think Haiti is mutual?
No.
Okay, so then this. So then to blanket statement that it's a mutual beneficial relationship is incorrect.
Most of the time, it is mutual.
Name me the countries where it's mutual.
Chile.
How many people had to die for Chile to get to the mutual level?
Huh? What do you mean? How many people had to die to get to the mutual? I don't know. Like, are you referring to like Allende or whatever? I don't know. 40,000. Sure.
More died under Pinochet than Allende.
Yeah, I know.
Okay, so
what
do we do? You're claiming that Chile has this mutual beneficial relationship.
Yeah, it
right?
does. We trade in copper and lithium and all sorts of stuff, and people's lives are better as a result.
The only way they got there is by doing the exact thing that you claim that I want to do. Was Allende democratically elected?
Yes, Allende was democratically elected.
Correct. Was there a coup to oust Allende in which thousands of people then proceeded to die under the Pinochet?
Yes.
Okay. So the only reason they got to the point where they're at now is because of a capitalist coup.
Yeah, and people's lives are currently better as a result. Like the quality of life in Chile is a hell of a lot better. Than ever before.
So you do believe that
it's one of the highest quality living societies in South America right now.
Yeah. So you believe that it's okay that some freedoms get limited, like such as your freedom to live, as long as the outcomes are better. You do believe this?
No, because like what you're referring to ends up resulting in worse outcomes more often than not.
Based on what metric?
What? Lives? Like quality of living?
Yeah, based on what we've already gone through this and I've brought to you socialist countries that have a higher quality of life. I guess like if you wanted to break it down, it
would be a thing that I refer to as internal values.
Internal values such as what?
An internal value is basically a thing. If I could do this thing, it would make me more satisfied.
It's just a freedom argument.
But you've already having the ability to do the thing. Yeah.
Yeah, but you've already admitted not only
people's lives are better in Chile as a result.
Because other people's lives were destroyed or their freedom was limited. Pinochet jailed how many political dissidents?
I don't agree with any of that. Like, obviously, I wouldn't agree with any of that. But like, you could also have like, but here's the problem, right? When you have a society that says we're going to divest the ownership of the means of production and make it so it's now the workers, and that we already had investments in Chile and companies had investments in Chile. Now all of a sudden it's like, okay, now we don't know where these investments are going to go. We basically have to pack up. We have to pack up and we have to leave. That means there's less trade. When there's less trade, that means life gets worse. Nobody wins under this socialism model. Everyone loses, including the worker.
Again, we can literally point to direct. Before we do this, I want to point out that your main contention, what your main contention has been that the taking of people's thing or the limiting of resources, the limiting of freedoms is a bad thing. So by saying, hey, we need to limit the freedom of investors and just take their means of production is a bad thing. But you don't view it as a bad thing when it comes from the capitalists. You don't view it as a bad thing when those freedoms are limited. Yes, it is, because
if there was like a giant corporation,
I just let you talk. You gotta let me talk. I just let you talk. You gotta let me talk. I just let you talk. So we literally laid out that when it comes to Chile, right, you are okay with what Pinochet did because it led to more prosperous outcomes. So the ends justified the means, right?
Wait, you're arguing the ends justify the means as well.
Yes, but you're saying that they don't, and I'm showing you that you also believe that it's okay to do this thing as long as the ends justify the means. So to argue against me and say, "Hey, well, I don't think this is okay because I think it's going to lead to X, Y, and Z,"
you're misconstruing my argument. You're saying that like I'm arguing this ends justify the means. I'm not arguing in favor of Pinochet. I'm saying making a society socialist makes the outcomes far, far, far worse. It's not an end justifies the means. That is the reality. What?
When they are affected by capitalism.
So in order for your society to work, let me be clear, right? You have to have a majority of the societies be socialist?
Most likely, yeah.
Okay, that's quixotic. I think you need to like spend more time reading. Like I think you need to like look at other countries that have you ever exited the United States before?
Yes.
So then what is this argument? Why would you even make these arguments?
This is just an ad hom, right?
It's not
to say,
an
well,
ad
your
hom.
argument doesn't hold up because
like,
you haven't left the US. Yes, that is an ad hom.
No, not at all.
It's not addressing my argument. That's addressing the fact that I haven't left the US. So obviously I can't know what I'm talking about.
I'm saying that you need to. What you need to do is that I think that you need to look at society in the way that it is currently formed, right? And then come up with realistic ways to actually make the world better. When you're sitting there arguing this level of quixoticism, it makes the world a worse place, especially in the fact that if the fact is that a majority of the countries are capitalist, right? Let's assume that like they're doing all the bad stuff that you're saying, that, you know, just assume that that's the case. Well, guess what? By making your country socialist, all of a sudden these countries will stop trading with you. Do you know why? Because all of a sudden you just divested the ownership of the means of production to be the workers, which now means that all investment goes down the tubes. International trade suffers. Did you have avocado for winter before?
I don't eat avocados.
What, really?
Yeah, I don't like them.
Okay. Well,
so,
I like avocado. I like avocados in winter, and there's only one way that you get an avocado in winter.
I just want to point out, you're again saying, well, this would fail because all these capitalist metrics would fail. We know the capitalist metrics would fail. We don't want the capitalist metrics to prosper. I've said again, a company is only as useful as its...
The socialist system is what fails, not the capitalist system. Because what happens is that when you make
out a socialist system that has failed without capitalist interference, you haven't been able to do it. I asked you to provide me a socialist country that has failed without capitalist interference, and you have not been able to provide that. Every socialist country has been interfered with by the US. Well, maybe I won't say the US, by capitalism. Every socialist country, every single one.
I mean, like if you're saying that, let's say that you have a country, let me ask you this, like what metric are you at? Like, let's say like that there was no intervention, but let's say that they were trading with them before. And then because they are now socialists, they just like leave because they're like, I don't want to trade with a country that is just going to like expropriate the products that we put into the factory or something. So we're just going to leave. Is that intervention?
Just like stopping trade? No, but embargo.
Yeah, like I'm just going to choose. Okay, fair enough. All right, so hold on.
While we give it that second for Amender to pull up what he wants, make sure to submit your questions, tag at MDD stage questions, and make sure to point out who your question is for. At the end of the timer, we're going to go into a Q&A, and we will have both of the debaters answer those questions.
Tito's Yugoslavia pursued a unique brand of socialism known as Titoism, which was aimed at creating a system distinct from both Soviet-style communism and Western capitalism. While Yugoslavia received some support from the Soviet Union initially, Tito eventually distanced the country from the Soviet influence, leading to the Tito-Stalin split in 1948. Following the split, Yugoslavia pursued its own path of socialist development, maintaining political independence and a policy of non-alignment during the Cold War. Despite facing international challenges from economic difficulties, Yugoslavia remained largely free from direct external intervention throughout the 20th century until its breakup in the early 1990s. Do you want to live in Yugoslavia?
Do I want to live in Yugoslavia? Why not?
That sounds fucking awful. Look at your house.
Why?
Look at your air conditioning. Look at your refrigerator. Look at the fact that you have that there's insulation in your roof. Look at the fact that you have drywall. Look at the fact that you have carpet. Look at the fact that you have running water. These are not granted in Yugoslavia.
Yeah,
the quality of living is much worse in Yugoslavia.
Yeah, Yugoslavia doesn't exist anymore right now, so I don't know.
That's fair. I'm saying that back then, the quality of living in Yugoslavia would have been horrendous. Yeah, it's a fucking shit country. Yes.
Yeah,
correct.
But are you claiming Are you claiming Yugoslavia was separate of what's the word I'm looking for? Was separate of attacks from capitalism? You telling me there was no capitalist interference in Yugoslavia?
Under your metric, then, that would mean that there cannot possibly be a failure condition. I have provided you the exact failure condition under by your own metrics, and you are now moving the goalpost saying, well, if there was a country that traded with one country and then that was a socialist country and the United States blocked trade with that country, therefore Yugoslavia would have gotten affected, we're now in a completely different realm.
The blocking of trade is not the only thing that led to the dissolution of Yugoslavia. They also had like interpersonal conflicts between capitalists and communists.
Yes, I'm aware. Sure. But you asked for a country that was largely left alone, and that's an example.
I asked for a country that socialism failed without capitalist interference.
That is literally without capitalist interference. What are you talking about? Yes, it is.
No, it is not. The interpersonal conflicts and the wars are started via capitalist versus communist.
You
That's
made an
still
argument
interference.
regarding trade. You made an argument regarding trade barriers.
No, you asked me for a condition I had about trade. I didn't make an argument for trade barrier. You asked me a condition. Trade is not the only way that capitalism interferes with socialism, because the USSR was interfered via shock therapy, and I would not call shock therapy trade. Right? So trade is not the only way that capitalism can influence a socialist system.
I mean, hold on. Like, I'm very much in favor of like making modifications to the capitalist system and have like, you can have state systems mixed with capitalist systems. That's what I argue. I argue like a logical proceeding, not some quixotic idealism. So I'm saying that you're arguing from a quixotic idealism, and I don't think that the metrics actually show in your favor. Socialist countries are far worse off, and that also includes ones that were completely left alone, like Yugoslavia.
Again, when we're
was left alone.
When we're looking at quality of life, again, I can bring up the Cuba metrics. Cuba has a higher life expectancy than we do.
That's fine. Yes, I agree. We have some lessons to learn from Cuba.
Let me finish. They have more doctors per capita. They have a lower infant mortality, and they have 100% literacy, all while being economically decimated by the U.S. They've still been able to accomplish
I actually
this.
looked up why we have the higher infant mortality. You're not going to believe the reason. It's fucking crazy. It actually turns out it's very similar to that of the U.S. The only difference why the U.S. is higher is because the mothers like to sometimes have the baby sleep in the same bed and not put them in a crib. And as a result, because like a lot of us are fat, we end up like crushing the babies overnight. Like, I'm not even kidding. Like that's unironically the reason why the infant mortality is higher in the United States. It's very sad.
I don't know that. I mean, the WHO says that the number one cause for like infant death in the U.S. is premature birth. So I don't know. Do you have a source for that? Not because I don't believe you, but because I'd like to actually see that.
Yeah, sure.
See the source on that one.
But
if it's going to be because of fat people, I'd just say that the USSR is looking pretty good right now since they had a more nutritious diet. If less fat people means less babies dying. Thank you for proving my point.
You got me, Rose. So, like, I guess, like, I'm asking you, like, the thing is when I look at the current capitalist system, I agree with you. I don't like the idea of intervention. But if the existence of socialism is to literally consume the bourgeoisie, then why would the capitalist nations not strive to protect themselves and deny trade with these countries? Like, why would they not do everything in their power to stop them?
Well, they have, and oftentimes it doesn't work. How many times did the U.S. try to assassinate Cuba guy? I don't agree. I don't agree with the CIA. I think the CIA bad. I think what the CIA has been doing, even now, is very bad. I don't like their foreign intervention. I think it makes the United States look terrible. There, are you happy? Does that mean therefore socialism? No, absolutely not. Completely disagree. Again, my point made at the beginning is I believe that capitalism will always lead.
You're arguing removing the ownership of the means of production to the point that you do want the classless, moneyless, stateless society. What is money for?
Yes, I told.
What is money for?
Money is just an what's the word I'm looking for? It's just a middleman for trade. It's just a middleman. It's replaced bartering. So we went to like a common currency as opposed to you give me fish, I give you water, or you give me fish, I give you goats.
So do you think that, like, let's say if that there was the classless, moneyless, stateless society, do you think that bartering would still exist?
Between persons, yeah, it might be where like barter? you have. Well, it might be you have tomatoes and I ask you for some tomatoes because I just need a little bit more tomatoes.
I want potatoes.
Hold on. You asked me for examples. If I'm going to give an example, you can't say, well, I don't like your example. Use this example.
No.
Right.
I'm saying that, like, I'm trying to elucidate the reason why we have money.
Yes, I believe the reason we have money is so that we can have class.
No. The reason
That's
why
why I
we have
believe we have
money.
money.
No, Jesus fuck.
Yeah,
The reason why we
that's
have
the-
money is liquidity. Liquidity. That's very important. So what happens
Yes,
is that when you have a barter, let's say for example that you have tomatoes and I have cigarettes, and I want tomatoes and they want cigarettes, this trade happens. But for example, if I want potatoes, but all you have is tomatoes, well then I can't give you my cigarettes. The trade doesn't happen, and therefore quality of life get worse. We
So
use
again,
money as an
hold on. I wanna address
intermediary
this.
source to be able to have a liquid resource to then get the thing that we want. So we
Yes,
do a
can
thing,
I
we
address
trade
this?
a thing. I have tomatoes, and rather than having
I mean,
potatoes,
let
I can
him
sell that for
reply,
money, and then in return, wait, I was explaining.
Yeah, but you interrupted me trying to answer your question.
Let's hold off on the meta. We just have a minute and 50 seconds. So answer the question, Jovan.
Yeah. So currently we have advanced enough in human society where we don't need money. We just straight up don't need it. We have enough resources and infrastructure to provide people's basic needs to them. We do. The idea that we don't is
Wait, I agree with that, but that doesn't mean get rid of money.
What do we
That is
need?
a
We don't
completely
need
different
money.
concept. What?
We don't need.
I literally
profit
explained
models.
to you
We
how
don't need this.
liquidity works. That's the reason
Yes,
why we have
but
money.
that's
It's
in-
not to, it's
that's
not
in
to
a
establish
system-
class.
That's in a system.
One at a
Hold on,
time,
that's Amender.
please.
That's in a system that uses money as a trade method, but we don't need to use money as a trade method because we won't have the need for. Yes,
I asked you if there was bartering. That's trade.
Again, bartering would happen on like an interpersonal level, like me
But that's
bartering with
trade.
you in your backyard. Yes, but bartering wouldn't happen on the higher global scale. We would just have a planned economy in which we know that we need this from here, this from here, this from here, and by taking all of these, we can now provide everybody with everything. That's it. We just have it planned out. We just planned the economy out, right? We keep going into these capitalist metrics.
But I asked you if there exists bartering. You said yes. And
on the interpersonal level, yes.
Okay, but then that means there's trade. And
On
so
an
the
interpersonal
problem of
level.
liquidity is still an issue now. And because your society results in less trade, life gets worse.
Worse
That's basic.
how?
That's econ 101. Okay. Let's say, for
You
example,
keep
I have
saying
country
life
A
gets worse,
versus.
but the
Let's say,
only-
for example, I have
Hold on,
country
hold
A
on.
and country B.
We're almost at the end, so I think it's a good stopping point. Right now, it has been a good debate. We might have to do a part 2 to continue expanding on the topics that were brought up today. But now we're going to go into the Q&A section of the debate, and let me pull up the questions. Right, timer. This is right. First question. The Wandering Jew. Oh, and the way we're going to do this is if no one is specified, I'm going to ask both of you the question. Just pick one of you at random and let you both answer. If the question is addressed for someone specifically, that person will get a first word, the other one can chime in, and the person who the question was addressed to will get the last word. Right? So first question from the Wandering Jew to Jovan. If I want to work harder to gain a higher quality... Sorry, someone talked and it moved. If I want to work harder to gain a higher quality of living or to gain more possessions that I desire, what would I do under socialism?
Either make them or find someone that does make them and exchange something with them for the thing, or you get together with like a group of people and make the thing you want. I'm not really worried about like luxury items.
Right? Amender?
You have money and then you give that money to somebody because money is liquid. Money has value. And like, so we use that thing to be able to exchange mediums, whereas like normally you wouldn't necessarily have what you need to trade or what the person needs. You have a medium of exchange so that way you can get the thing that you want after you sold the thing. This is like basic econ. Like this was discovered like in the 1500s. I'm astonished that that Jovan has this argument because he's actually very smart.
My argument that I don't care about luxury items?
No.
All right. Any last words for the question itself, Jovan?
Yeah, I'm more focused on providing everybody who's hungry food and everybody who is dealing with thirst water,
So
and
am I.
everybody who's dealing with the elements homes. I'm not so much worried about like, will I have a PS5 or not? Like, will I have like, you'll be
No,
given
I'm
the
very
things
concerned
you
about
need.
the food over PS5s.
You'll be given the things you need to survive, and anything else that you want past that, get together with somebody that makes it. Or we probably will still make it. We'll probably still see that there's a need for entertainment under a socialist system and still make these things. So instead of like some people having a PS5, everybody will have a PS5.
Ain't nobody gonna have a PS5 under socialism anyway. It won't be needed.
Well, entertainment is still a need, so.
Well, I agree, but I don't think you're gonna get a PS5.
Maybe you'll get Game Station Socialist Model 75.
Yeah, it'll have 64 megs of RAM.
Next question. To Jovan, how would you combat the economic problem with removing companies and moving to communism in America?
What do they? I don't know what they mean by like combat the economic problem. What economic problem? I feel like the question's a bit broad. Like when we're talking about moving away from the system we have now, like if they're asking how we do it, probably revolution or mass worker protests. If they're asking like how do we give the means of production over, it's like I said to Amender during the debate, it probably have to be some form of nationalized system at first, just to recognize the private owner class can't take control, and then the as it will slowly the plan is for it to dissolve as we move to a system where the basic needs are met.
Except for whatever reason, that never gets to that point. Because when because you have power that you give somebody infinite power, which corrupts absolutely. That's what happens every time.
Yeah, because they have to hold on to that power because of
that's
like
correct. Yes, you created the system that makes that happen. That's correct.
Yes, because they're constantly being interfered with, so
that's
they can't give over.
Wait, it's not even a matter of interference. It's literally just how authoritarianism works.
No, it's quite literally a matter of like the USSR, for instance, had to maintain, even though the USSR had collective leadership. This has been admitted by the CIA, who's like, oh, they have collective leadership, and the CIA literally said they have it, and we're really happy Americans don't think they have it because it's gonna mess us up if they do. But
yeah,
they couldn't give
if
up the
their
power.
Argument is to kill the bourgeoisie. Why would they not try to defend themselves? Why would they not do everything in their power to stop them? Of course they would. Duh.
Okay,
what is this argument?
Ramen gave a clarification.
If you just do nothing. Sorry.
He says, to clarify, I mean on the global scale, like how will that affect the trade economy and stocks will plummet and the dollar backs every currency?
If we're moving to the beginning stages of socialism, not much would change in regards to this, right? Because like you're still going to have a profit model for a little while until you start to dissolve this. But the problem is like how will the stocks will plummet? Okay, we're not going to be using stocks anymore. Like I said, the value a company has will be based on its service to the community. If a company does not service a need in the community, the company gets dissolved. And we redistribute the workers to labor forces elsewhere. That would be my answer to that.
Correct. Thank you very much. Next question from Upogu. So Jovan is essentially advocating that we shouldn't have freedom of choice, and Amender is saying that this is a terrible idea in relation to the invisible hand argument. And this question is for both. Upogu says, so Jovan is essentially advocating that we shouldn't have freedom of choice, and Amender is saying that this is a terrible idea in relation to the invisible hand argument.
I would just argue that freedom of choice is an illusion. You don't actually have freedom of choice because most of the things that you buy are owned by the same like 3 companies.
Amender?
Would you be okay with just like eating Wendy's every day?
Probably not, but like
yeah, I agree. I wouldn't like that either.
The same.
Anyway,
yeah, but even in the USSR, they didn't just eat the same thing every day.
What?
Like that would.
That's very common. That was very common, actually. That was common in China. That was common in the USSR. Have you seen what Cuban spaghetti looks like? It's literally fucking just pasta with fucking ketchup. They don't even have fucking regular tomato sauce. It's ketchup. It's a fucking nightmare, bro.
A problem with this argument, Amender, is that half the time the stuff that they consistently ate was because that was the stuff that they were growing. So like China eats a lot of
eating that
China
every day.
and Japan. Hold on. Japan eats rice every day. They always have rice because that's like one of their biggest crops. This doesn't mean that they've now lost freedom because they're eating
that every day. You're saying that they're not eating that every day, and you're saying, but they are. They literally are.
I'm saying the reason that they eat certain things every day, certain things, is because that's the what they produce. But it's not. You still have bread, cheese, and milk, right? You still have bread, cheese, milk, flour. If I want to make pancakes, I'll make pancakes. If I want to have a sandwich today, I'll make a sandwich.
So this idea that you're going to eat more efficient when the scale gets bigger, right?
What? Let me clarify what Bobo said. To clarify, who owns the food doesn't change that I can choose between 50 types, even if that's all owned by one guy.
Hell yeah.
Yeah, but you're not. I disagree that you're choosing between 50 types of things. You're choosing the same thing, just in a slightly different package.
Bro, you're going to sit there and tell me Wendy's is the same as Taco Bell? Bro, come on. Or is KFC like this? Okay, KFC is owned by PepsiCo. Is KFC just like Taco Bell? No, is KFC just like Taco Bell?
This is a straw man.
I'm just asking you. Is it?
This is a straw man of what I'm saying.
A straw man. You're saying it's like the same thing. It's not.
Hold on. Yes, you are absolutely straw manning me. If I go to Walmart and I look up ketchup and I'm like, oh, I want ketchup. I need some ketchup. Sure, there are like 50 brands of ketchup on the shelf. They're all the same thing.
Do you have a favorite
It's all
brand?
ketchup. I like Heinz.
All right, yeah, no
I'll eat whatever ketchup is available. I'm not
you
gonna
just happen to have this favorite brand for whatever reason.
I'm not gonna thumb my nose down at ketchup because it's a different brand. I'm not gonna be like, I'm not gonna.
Well, some people do. That's up to them, isn't it?
All right, moving on to the next question. Lucid Ages says, how does the Jovan want to solve the economic calculation problem and knowledge problem? Also, how does he defend the homogeneity of labor?
I don't know what the knowledge problem is. I don't see an issue where we would have where under a socialist system like knowledge would all of a sudden become commodified. Knowledge is already commodified, right? That's why like to a higher education costs so much. So I would say under a current system, knowledge is like worse because we only grant knowledge to those that have the means to pay for it past like a basic high school level. What were the other two parts of the question?
And then knowledge problem and the homogeneity of labor.
Homogeneity of labor. What do they mean when they say, can they clarify what they mean by homogeneity of labor?
Lucid, would you mind please clarifying what you mean by the knowledge problem and the homogeneity of labor and also calculation problem? But do you have anything, while we wait for Lucid, do you have anything to say, Mender?
I mean, like, what he's asking is like a calculation problem. That's an extremely generalized statement. That doesn't even make sense for like, from like an economic standpoint. So like, I don't know what they mean.
Well, so far he has said Marxist theory, but he doesn't.
One Google search says the economic calculation problem is a criticism of using economic planning as a substitute for market-based allocation of the factors of production. I don't know if Amender agrees, but I don't think that's a problem. I mean, I think even in a capitalist system, economic
the invisible
planning,
hand problem, like I was talking about earlier.
Oh yeah, I don't believe the invisible hand.
Okay, we got one clarification. The knowledge problem is gathering all consumer needs and wants as ones.
Yeah, I think in the age of the internet, we wouldn't have that issue. I think we've reached a point of global communication where we wouldn't have that problem.
All right. Any?
Yeah, I don't have
anything else, Amender?
I don't have anything to say about that question.
Right. The Wandering Jew says to Jovan, my family in the USSR was so broke and couldn't afford food, so they had to resort to turning street cats into soap in order to afford food. Your claims of famine in the USSR being propaganda are disturbing, and yes, they ate almost the same thing every day.
Yeah, so I would just, again, I have a direct source for this. I understand that some people in the USSR face challenges, right? Especially towards the end of the USSR when shock therapy was implemented by the US and like capitalist interference. But in this, like I said, the report from the CIA of January 1983, the average daily caloric intake in the Soviet Union was 3,280 calories. They intook on average mostly grain products, 44% grain products and potatoes, 13% sugar, 11% dairy and eggs, 70% fats and oils, and then 8% meat and fish with 7% other products. So like I understand that some people are going to suffer under any system, right? There are people in the US who have to eat really shitty food because they can't afford better food. But again, a direct report, the average caloric intake was around the same as the US. The US had about 3,520, while the USSR had 3,280.
Amender, anything you would like to add?
Nope.
Right.
I mean, it's like,
Next
I'm sorry,
question.
it's just like obvious that it's like I don't even think Jovan would do very well in Russia at all. He's sitting there saying that it would be perfect, and it's like he enjoys the like having all of these choices, and even though that there's only 3 companies, I highly doubt that he would think that like one place is just like another place just because it's owned by the same company. It's ridiculous.
I don't think that addresses the argument I made like at all. It kind of just ignores the argument I made, right? And we're right back to an ad hom. We're saying, well, because you engage in this system, you clearly don't actually agree with your own arguments. Yes, it was. You quite literally just said Jovan wouldn't survive here. That is quite literally an ad hom. It's not addressing.
Well. Yeah, you wouldn't do well in this society.
You didn't address the argument I laid out.
Amanda, this sucks.
You didn't address the argument I laid out.
Yeah, you sat there and said that the caloric intake is roughly about the same, and 35 and 3,200 is not the same. But okay, let's assume that like the 3,200, it's like roughly comparable. But like even then, like I highly doubt that any Russian would honestly like pick the Russian diet over like the United States diet. Obviously, duh. Why in the world would they sit there and stick with their rice and beans when they have such a huge selection? I guarantee you every single person in your chat would prefer more selection. I promise you. The only reason why you would argue less selection is because you already have the more selection. You don't know what it's like without it.
Yeah, so again, the bulk of people in the USSR wanted to maintain the USSR. So they didn't want to leave the system. They wanted to stay in the system. So this idea that the bulk of them wanted to get out is also not true, because when we did the 1991 referendum and they voted on the maintaining the USSR, it was an 80% voter turnout, and 70% of them wanted to stay in the USSR, of all USSR countries. So I don't know what this idea is that like most people in the USSR would want to get out of, would hate or hated this system and don't want to be in this system anymore.
Yeah, why the fuck do you think?
All right, moving on to the next question, because we have quite a few of them. This one doesn't say to whom, but Lithium Dev says, how can we prevent abuses of power in the over-centralized government style of socialism? I'm going to give Amender the first turn for this one.
What? That would be Jovan's argument. I don't argue for a huge centralization of government.
You're right. I'm sorry.
I argue for argue for a private model with like social safety nets, which is completely congruent with modern society.
Yes. It slipped my mind. Sorry. So, Jovan, go ahead. How can we prevent the abuses of power in the over-centralized government style of socialism?
How would we prevent the abuses of power? We just have to give enough. We have to everything has to be solely democratic, right? So everybody needs to have like a vote, and we have to give enough ways for people who are in power to be taken back out of power. Like I would argue that there needs to be like plenty of recall votes, or even once a year, or maybe even once a quarter votes on whether or not the people in the seats of power are doing a good job. We need to give a lot. It needs to be a lot easier to remove people that are in political office. But I also I don't. Right. This would also be a problem of capitalism that we currently have. So it's like it might be a problem under socialism, but it currently exists as a problem now.
All right. Lithium Dev again for Jovan. Is your definition of capitalism when the government does stuff?
No, I gave my definition of capitalism at the beginning. It would be a system, an economic system where the means of production and exchange are privately
Why
owned.
is that question even a fucking thing? What? Like we both defined
Maybe
it
he
and
came
even
in
agreed.
late. Don't be mean to the audience.
Sorry.
Maybe he came in late.
Sorry.
It's fair
Don't add
enough.
on the
Don't-
audience, Amender.
It's fine. It's fair.
For Jovan, what's your ideal form of socialism?
I mean, my ideal form of socialism would be a short-lived socialism, right? I primarily want to use it as an interim to get to council communism. But like, if I'm like, I'd probably actually just say council socialism, right? I would just take the tenets of council communism and put them into a socialist system.
All right. Upogu, and this one might apply for both of you. Either you trade in gold, or you trade in goats, or you trade in a consistent currency. I think this goes back to what you were talking about before, money and trade. But let Amender chime in here, and then I'll get you
Sorry, can you repeat
your
the
2
question?
cents from you, Jovan.
Could you repeat the question?
That felt like a statement, not a question.
Well, yeah, but let's try to frame it into a question that either you trade in gold, or you trade in goats, or you trade in a consistent currency. How could we make like no money work?
It would just be to abolish class, right? The abolition of money would abolish the class distinctions between low income, high income. Like that would be the part of the reason for abolishing money.
So class extinctions
All right,
would still
fair enough.
exist even with no money, because somebody would. There is a necessity to having like something that's liquid, that's tradable. So if it's not money, it's probably going to be something else. I mean, in prisons, it's cigarettes. So whoever has the most cigarettes is affected. So like, what are we going to arrest all the people that have more cigarettes? Like, it just doesn't make any sense.
Well, no, because the basic needs of people would be met, so you wouldn't have anything to hold liquid over people, right?
People
you
aren't
couldn't
necessarily in favor of only just having the bare minimum. They want more. They always want more.
Amender, you gotta let me finish. So, for instance, you wouldn't be able to hold housing over somebody's head because they have housing. You wouldn't be able to hold food over somebody's head because they have food. Now, you can, if you want to say like somebody's got all the, if we want to use this as an example, someone's got 100 PS5s, so they're making people do stuff for PS5s. But I would just argue that the community would get together and make a PS5.
What?
Because there wouldn't be, because the necessary means of production to own the PS5s aren't owned by one person.
You can't
or
make
aren't owned by one entity.
You literally can't make a PS5. The amount of R&D required to do that is insane.
We already have done the R&D.
What?
So
No, you didn't.
Upogu-
Sony
done
did.
the R&D.
Hold on. Upogu gives us a little bit of clarification. Say if you have something I want, let's say every household gets 10 tomatoes, but you dislike tomatoes and I love tomatoes. So I want your tomatoes and you want my peas.
I wouldn't take peas from you. I would just say to the people that deliver the food, hey, I don't really like tomatoes. They'd be like, okay, we'll give your tomatoes to a household that likes them. We'll give you the thing. We'll give you your tomatoes to somebody else. You don't like tomatoes. It's just going to go to waste. We're not going to let the food go to waste.
Right, fair enough. Next question from Lithium Dev for Jovan. If you want to send a few questions over for Amender, that would be cool too, because most of them have been for Jovan so far. I understand that it's something
I'm the op, bro.
No, because you argue for quixotic nonsense. That's why everyone's like, what? Why? And then they go, man, I got to ask this guy a question because it makes no sense.
You keep saying
Okay,
quixotic,
so
but
Lithium
I
Dev.
clearly laid out my positions.
For
Yeah,
Jovan,
it's exciting.
money. For Jovan, money is the, and this is a quote. Money is the jealous god of Israel, in face of which no other god may exist. Unquote. Karl Marx on the Jewish question. I don't. What's the question, Lithium? Does he agree with that, or?
No, I wouldn't agree with the anti-Semitism. No, but I think that people can like create something and still be shitty people, and like we can still use the thing they created.
Next question. From Lucid Ages to Jovan. To what extent do you agree with this? And this is also a quote. The Jewish N. LaSalle, who I'm glad to say is leaving at the end of this week, has happily lost another 5,000 tailors in ill-judged speculation. The chap would sooner throw money down the drain than lend it to a friend, even though his interest and capital were guaranteed. It's now quite plain to me as the shape of his head and the way his hair grows also testify that he's descended from the N who accompanied Moses' flight from Egypt, unless his mother, paternal grandmother, interbred. What does the N mean here?
I don't understand what this. I do not understand.
I
what
don't
this is. I'm not
understand
touching. I'm not touching
Now,
this.
this
I'm not
blend of
touching this with a
Jewishness-
20-foot pole, bro. I got
this
I
is
got an
weird.
online persona to
Lucy,
maintain.
could you try to make this very long question? Could you try to make it more succinct and also add a question to it, because it doesn't. It just seems a quote.
This
Yeah, it was very weird. I'm sorry. It was long. I would have been a few moments of silence for me to screen it before.
Yep.
Klexi, to First Amender, what are the best and worst outcomes or results of capitalism? Vice versa to Jovan.
Probably one of the best that I would say is just like having the plenty. Like we took like human greed and basically turned it into something that actually outputs to something that people want, which is really, really cool. As far as the worst, there's rampant abuse, and that there are people that legitimately suffer. And I think that there are ways to repair this. I just don't think like communism is the answer.
All right, Jovan.
Am I being asked about capitalism?
No, for socialism, what are the best and worst outcomes?
I mean, the best outcome is everybody's basic needs are met. People have food, water, homes, and they don't have to deal with the elements or starvation or anything like that.
Norway, and it's capitalist. Sorry.
Okay. As I was answering the question, the worst outcomes for socialism would be like authoritarianism, but this would also be the worst outcome for capitalism as well.
All right, and the worst?
I just said the worst. Authoritarianism.
Oh, sorry. Perfect. Thank you so much. Right. Next question. Splical. First Amender, don't you think that the idea of everyone having food is more important than being able to choose which food you have?
Oh, bro, wait. I agree. That's why I argue for food stamps. Why do you think, I argue for SNAP benefits? You know who wants to get rid of SNAP benefits? It's fucking Republicans. I mean, obviously he's not a Republican, but this is operating at at a very realistic level. Whereas I don't know, I just think getting rid of everything and starting fresh is just kind of silly.
All right. Anything you would like to add, Jovan?
Yeah, like I said earlier, I think food stamps are not cohesive enough. As somebody who's been on them, I understand that's slightly anecdotal, but as someone who's been on them and somebody who looks at the numbers, like the qualifier numbers for getting on food stamps, I don't think they're expansive enough. And I think that we have enough food, right? America has 14 billion pounds of food waste every year. I think we have enough food.
That's bad. And we have to get things from point A to point B.
A large portion of the food waste is not bad food. So I think large food waste also counts all the food that grocery stores pour bleach on when they throw them away.
Why do you think they do that?
Yes, why do I think they pour bleach on
why do
perfectly
they do that?
good food? You know that food that's thrown out, even if it's past the expiration date, oftentimes it's not bad, right?
You understand that that's a giant liability concern?
Yes, so we make it so that they.
you make it so they basically can't. Yeah, I do agree with you that we should be giving food to food shelters. Yes, I agree, but also I think expired food can be extremely dangerous, and so you need to. And so one thing that they end up doing is so that way they prevent people from digging into the trash and taking the food and basically causing a lawsuit on their hands. Is they put bleach on the food so that way people don't take it. That's why
expiration dates are overinflated. We found this constant times where companies will put a earlier expiration date, even though the product is still good. Well past that, they'll put an earlier expiration date so that product has to get thrown out, and the grocery store has to buy more of it.
You don't know that. It depends on the product.
What?
Yes, you don't know that. It depends on the product. There
I
could be a
disagree. I think
product
we-
where
I
that
think we
is
know this
happening.
pretty-
There
pretty
could be a product where that's not happening. You're talking about millions and millions of products.
Yeah, I think it's clear that like meat and stuff, like frozen stuff, we're probably not going to do this as the same way we do like non-perishable goods, right? Like that would be the nuance in here. But I didn't want to spend 30
Wait,
minutes.
do you know
going
what we
through, like,
donate
each
all the
product.
time? We donate non-perishable goods.
But
we throw away the stuff that goes bad, like veggies,
charities
fruits.
Charities and donations have not been able to couple the food food like hunger. They have not been able to couple hunger.
I agree. Wait, so then expand food stamps, expand SNAP. Don't fucking rip apart the entire system.
We won't need food stamps and snaps if everyone's just
What?
given food.
So what do you think
Here,
SNAP is?
actually, you know what? Hold on. Wait,
hold on.
I really want to
Debate.
quickly. I want to agree with Amender. I believe we should expand food stamps and SNAP, and the way we do that is by just giving everybody food. So everybody gets a SNAP card. When you scan that SNAP card, you're given all the food you need for the week. That's how I would expand it.
All right, next question. Explicar again. Question for Jovan. You say that we don't need money because we can fulfill everyone's basic needs like housing and food. How are you going to get people to get those basic needs without money? And if you say bartering, at that point, just use a form of currency.
I don't think we need to do bartering. I think it's the classic Marx tenet from each according to their ability, to each according to their need. So when you work, so like somebody might say, hey, you go help build houses today, and then you're given all the stuff you need, right? You do for the community you're given. And I think we have pretty clear examples of all human society thousands of years of human society pre-capitalism, where people just did things, even pre-barter societies, right? Where people have like this need, like basic human psychology. They have this need to form communities. And I think we see pretty oftentimes like people who do volunteer work, people who work after they retire when they don't need to. Like people not only have a drive to help, but they have a drive to be doing something. So I think that's how we'll fulfill those. We don't necessarily need to pay people. We just say, you work, here's your food.
Jovan,
here's your
are you
home.
in favor of
Here's your water.
churches?
Am I in favor of churches?
Yeah.
What do you mean? In favor of them? How? I don't care that they exist. Yeah, I don't care.
Well, I mean, they do what you're saying.
Some of them, yeah.
So are you in favor of that?
Yeah, I don't mind churches.
Okay.
I don't
All right,
care one way or another.
Fair enough. Okay, I was just curious.
All right, next question. Watch my legs. Sorry, it's a cool screen name. To both, if socialism doesn't work, then why do capitalist countries spend billions to make sure countries that try it fail at it?
Because it is a security problem with the United States. Yes, when your argument is to literally physically eat the bourgeoisie, yeah, I think it makes sense to stop you. Yeah. I look at it no different as you're coming into my house with a gun. Like, you can fuck right off. Like, no, I'm not going to engage in a trade with you. I'm literally going to stop you. Yes, that's exactly how that works.
I want to first respond to the question. It's because capitalists are afraid of rich people are afraid of not being rich anymore. But second of all, the idea that like people are going to eat the bourgeoisie is just not true. We want to fold the bourgeoisie into the proletariat class. So when Marx talks about a dictatorship of the proletariat, it's that every class distinctions would be dissolved and everybody would be a part of the same class. Not that we would just like go on this mass unaliving spree of the bourgeoisie. But the reason why in a lot of countries you see, or I wouldn't even say a lot, the reason why you see this argument of like eat the rich or something is because the rich won't give up their money and wealth willingly. If the rich class, if the 1% goes, oh yeah, we'll gladly fold into the proletariat, then there will be no violence. There will be no issues.
Jovan, do you believe that you are the 1%?
No. Because
I got news for you,
I don't
pal.
own any means of production. I work
I got
for a
news
living.
for you, pal. You are the 1%. Globally, you are the 1%. I just want to let you know that. You are the bourgeoisie.
I would disagree.
Mathematically, you are the 1%.
I would disagree.
Okay.
All right. Next question from Xerxes. Question for Amender. What are a few other socialist countries besides
Wait, really quickly, MX, can I just respond to that last little bit? I would gladly just by the way, I gladly give up my money if we were going to move to that system. I would do it easily, gladly. Like, let's go. If the system is changing, let's go. Let's do it.
I think
Right.
I think when you could never mind. It's fine. Let's go to the next question. There's a lot of questions. It's fine.
From Xerxes. What are a few socialist countries besides Yugoslavia that haven't experienced foreign intervention?
I would have to look up some more. I mean, I'll be honest, like, yeah, most countries have been intervened by the United States and other capitalist nations. So I'll give Jovan that, but I still don't think socialism is the solution.
All right. Next question from Lithium Dev. For Jovan, is the Holodomor capitalist propaganda according to you?
The Holodomor? No, that would be a genocide.
That was run by state
All right.
capitalists.
There's capitalist genocides, and there have been genocides of like state socialist countries. Like, genocide isn't specific.
Wait, are you actually calling the USSR socialist?
What I call the USSR socialist? Yeah, they were socialists.
Thank you. I make fun of so many
Next
socialists.
question.
Sorry, go ahead.
From the Wandering Jew, if the caloric intake between America and the USSR was so similar, then how come 8.7 million people starved in the USSR and nothing like that happened in America? Seems like your caloric intake argument doesn't make much sense.
I made a very big distinction in my caloric intake argument that it was around the 80s. The famine that killed millions of USSR citizens was in the 30s.
All right.
So it was a later time. It was after the famine.
Yes, that's
All
correct.
right. Ramen asks, Jovan, using votes in Russia is not evidence the sentiment was you die otherwise. Please add some punctuation to your questions. Otherwise, also counter. Why was the Berlin Wall built to stop people from leaving if it was so great?
Well, wasn't the Berlin Wall in
Germany.
Germany? What would that have to do with the USSR?
Berlin was both socialist and capitalist, whereas the East Side was basically
No,
owned by
sure.
the USSR.
Sure. When I discuss the voting in the USSR, I talk about the referendum on the preservation of the USSR, because if we're going to talk about like doing what people wanted to remain in the USSR. Like I said, it was 80% voter turnout. You can disagree with this, but the referendum exists. The referendum was a legitimate vote held in 1991. 80% voter turnout. 76% voted in favor of maintaining the USSR. Then I'm providing you a direct source of people wanting to stay in the USSR.
There were millions of people that went to the United States how do you think we got Ayn Rand? There's so many people that were like, dude, this shit is awful. Get me the fuck out of here. Get me the fuck over to the United States. Why do you think they built a fucking wall to stop them from leaving?
This isn't addressing the issue. The claim that I'm making is that of the 80% of people that turned out to vote, 80% voter turnout, sorry. So of the 80% voter turnout means of all the people that could vote, 80% of them showed up. 76% of them wanted to maintain the USSR. Argue against that point. People can leave, sure. People leave the US. This doesn't mean that the majority of people don't want to maintain the US.
You killed all the detractors. Well, they killed all the detractors.
We do that here too.
Here we have a little clearing up of the question, because Berlin was socialist and part of USSR. Also, again, most people thought that they would be killed if they voted otherwise.
What?
Putin has most people voting him, sure.
So Berlin was split. So I don't deny that there was locations within the Soviet zone, right? But when we're talking about like the preservation, this happened in 91, right? This happened towards the end. Like, where was if the voting was compelled, right? Why did the USSR dissolve if the voting was compelled? if we're saying that people were compelled enough to vote, but they weren't compelled enough to be able to maintain, like that doesn't make sense.
Yeah,
now, if you're talking about a country,
if it's
go ahead.
I'm sorry. Just
I was gonna say it seems weird to be like the voting was compelled, yet the thing that they compelled the votes to do didn't happen.
Please, for those of you requesting to speak on stage, this is a scheduled debate. So for now, we're not opening the stage for the rest of the audience. Next question from the Wandering Jew. For First Amender, what form of capitalism do you think is best for America? Also, opinions on Henry Clay and the American system.
Yeah, I'm a social democrat. I do argue that like we should have social safety nets. I do agree that like that there's more that we could be doing. I think that we can look at like hell. I think we can even look at Cuba in terms of like the way that they deal with their medicine. You know, I think we could look at and come up with like America centric approaches that would actually work with the United States. I mean, I'm pretty sure like even Canada, that when it came to like healthcare, they like basically they still appeased the insurance companies by basing it off of provinces, and then like the insurance companies still benefited while at the same time people could just get their healthcare. And it's like a system like that would be super beneficial to the United States, and it would actually cost us less, not more, because we currently spend more per person in the United States on healthcare than if we just like got rid of that and then had like a decent system like they do in Canada and other countries. So like I just argue like, yeah, let's just have like you know, a realistic society that has empirical metrics of actually working, not this like idealistic nonsense.
Anything you would like to chime in, Jovan?
Yeah, I don't disagree with this. My whole stance is that capitalism will always lead to crony capitalism. It'll always lead to corporatism, where corporations get to sort of dictate. And if corporations find that it's better to provide some social safety nets so people don't interfere with them making billions of dollars, like I think they will do this, right? But again, I believe that capitalism is like inherently exploitative. So it's just I'm like solely against the exploitation of labor. So yeah. But I don't disagree with the Mender that like we should have universal healthcare, things like that.
We have 6 questions or 5 questions left. American, to Jovan, how does this help in the successful growth? Come on.
Just skip it.
American.
Just skip
in
it.
the successful growth of the breast milk industry. It's a joke question. You don't have to answer.
No. I think it's important that I answer this. I think it's very important.
It's American. It's not.
A better diet leads to better breast milk. So.
Oh, American. He got you your answer. That's pretty awesome. He understood the joke immediately. Wire asks, would Marx be a Zionist?
He was Jewish, so maybe, I don't know. I actually would have to read the Jewish question.
Yeah,
which was his well, he was Jewish.
No,
when he
but
wrote
he
the Jewish
didn't like
question, he
Jews.
was I don't know that I would agree with this sentiment, because when he wrote the Jewish question, he was like responding to another thing. I just have to reread the Jewish question.
Okay.
All right. Next one, Ramen. Jovan, why not use social nets to make sure everyone has basic needs and then give the ability to work for a better life rather than bring everyone down to the food stamp level?
Because I believe that this idea that everyone will be able to have a better life doesn't address the fact that you'll still be exploited for your labor, right? You wouldn't need the government to subsidize, like under capitalism, you wouldn't need the government to subsidize stuff if our labor wasn't undervalued, right? If our labor wasn't undervalued and the cost of living didn't go up and shrinkflation wasn't a thing and regular inflation wasn't a thing, you wouldn't need the government to subsidize this. But it kind of has to, because of the failures of capitalism, because the whole point of capitalism is to earn as much profit as possible, and the best and easiest way to do that is to devalue labor. So at the end of the day, I still, even if capitalism was providing some of the basic needs for some of the people, I don't believe capitalism will ever make it expansive. It doesn't address the devaluation of labor problem.
All right. Any thoughts, Amender?
Nope.
All right. Elysian, for both of you. Alternately, During the Cold War, the USSR exceeded Western technology, Sputnik, and lagged behind, creating a fake IBM called Riyadh. Given this mixed data, which system is better for technological innovation and why? And let's start with Amender.
Both. The answer is both. When it comes to private corporations, they have a vested interest in making money, so they're going to do everything that they can to try to like make some motherfucking money. And I think that sometimes that results in innovations. However, sometimes that's not the case. Sometimes like the profit incentive needs to be removed in order to really like establish a person's like R&D and creativity. And so having the government like step in there is a really good idea. I really like the government focusing on R&D and innovations. And I also like the idea of companies doing that.
All right. Jovan, any thoughts?
I would argue that under capitalism, we actually see kind of worse when it comes to like technological advances and things like that. While we have seen a major boom in like the internet era and things like that, I do think that this would have happened either way, because like most people who made computing advancements did it in like a garage and they didn't do it because they wanted to make money. They did it because they like computers. I think one of the issues we see with capitalism is we see like patent holding companies where people will invent something, sure, and then a company will buy up the patent and not allow the patent to be sold, or not allow the patent to be made, or the item that is in the patent to be made, because it directly competes with something they have in the market, and it would make their thing obsolete, right? So I would just say that like under capitalism we see a stifling of innovation and of like technological advancements.
Yeah, guys, the reason why Bill Gates started Microsoft was because he liked computers. He's a multi-billionaire.
The reason he worked on.
He started in a garage.
That's a straw man of my argument. I didn't say the reason he started the company, but
he did start the company.
Hold on, Amender. What I'm saying is, when you look at people who make advancements, like half the time they're not doing it because they're making. Like Bill Gates hadn't been making money.
Bill Gates absolutely did it because he wanted to make money.
Hold on. I disagree. He did it because he liked computing. It's the same with Steve Jobs. Steve Jobs didn't set out to become $1 billion.
Doesn't he have like a net worth of like $150 billion or something?
Again, you're addressing the end point of their company with what I'm talking about, which is the start point of their company.
But you don't get that way without wanting money.
I hold on. You can absolutely begin a company just because you like doing the thing that you like doing. But
I agree, but I'm saying to become a billionaire, you need to want money.
Hold on. What I would argue, right? What I would argue is that the most of the time when we look at like people who are willing to do a butt ton of work, look at the modding community in video games. I have gotten more value off of somebody who spent hundreds of unpaid hour modding Fallout 4 than I've ever gotten over the broken mess it was when Bethesda dropped it. Right? People will do things just because they like it.
I agree. We see this all the time. That's not how macro economies work. Like there's more than just that. People want to make money and they'll make it selfishly. And yes, that does result in people like living a better outcome, like making something that's worthwhile. Yes, that happens sometimes. I can't believe you don't see that.
Again, my claim is that capitalism stifles this.
Disagree.
How many iPhones have we had in the last like 10 years?
Like, I don't know, like 10?
How many advancements have there been made in iPhone technology since the iPhone like 9? We got a third camera?
No, you got AI models. You got like better touchscreen qualities. You've got better screens. You've got IPS. You've got OLED. What are you talking about?
Apple didn't invent OLED. Apple didn't.
It doesn't matter if they didn't invent OLED. You're asking what innovations did they have, and I'm like, yeah, they had a lot of innovations. What?
You're gonna sit
of course it innovated. And also you're bringing up the iPhone, but there's lots of things that have been improved in the last 10 years entirely on the basis of profit. Like what?
Yeah, if you're gonna
What is the AI movement? Is this not profit?
Do I get
I'm sorry.
Half the people who do AI training are not making money for it.
What?
You have bigger companies that are like ChatGPT and stuff, but do you know how many people AI train models to do random things when they are not getting paid for it? Because people like to do this sort of stuff.
What about the designing part? They're sitting there making money off of it. What are you talking about?
Again, people will design really expensive computer programs just because they want to do it.
I agree, but also profit.
What?
Also profit.
DaVinci Resolve is a way better program than Premiere Pro, and it's completely free. Like, what do you mean?
I agree with you, but also people do it for profit.
I'm not saying they don't.
Then why are you arguing that they don't? You
I feel like
literally
you
did.
never
Moving
listen.
on.
Oh my God.
Amender,
Moving
why
on.
don't you
Both of you,
ever
come
listen
on,
to my
simmer
actual
down.
claims?
Simmer down. Moving on to the next question. Ask Amender how many people capitalism has starved or killed. And then he answers the question, but I'll give you the answer afterwards. So,
Millions. The answer
what's
is
your
millions.
answer, Amender?
It's millions. The answer is millions.
Yes, he says that the answer is
killed,
over 1 billion.
Yeah, that's a lot of people. Yes. It turns out when you're a giant system that, yes, it affects a lot of people. And sometimes that results in bad things happening. And yes, I agree. Those are bad things and we should do things to stop it. That doesn't mean capitalism bad. Just like I can't use the same argument against Jovan in the fact that like they lacked food.
All right. Next question, and we just have two more. Basescu Boss, to both. Do you consider that Skibidi Toilet is a product of capitalism, or Skibidi Toilet's existence is deeper and based on class struggle? I don't
Skibidi
know
Toilet
what that
would
is.
exist. Skibidi Toilet would exist without capitalism. Skibidi Toilet transcends all economic systems.
What is that?
It's a
You don't wanna know.
Gary's mod thing where they have a head that is coming out of a toilet where they go skibbity up skibbity up the re, and that's it. That's it. That's all it is. I just gave you the whole thing. Are you happy? Are you happy that you now know everything
okay.
about skibbity toilet? All right.
Yes. All right. Thank you so much. And let me. Last question. American question for Jovan. What's the incentive to brainstorm and invent new things without reward under communism or socialism?
I would argue most major innovations are bred from laziness. Let me rephrase, are from people wanting to make work easier. So we would still innovate because nobody invented the wheel because they wanted to make a bunch of money. The wheel was invented to make moving things easier. I would just say most innovations would come from our desire to make work easier.
All right. Anything you would like to chime in on this question, Amender?
Nope.
All right. So thank you everyone for joining the debate. Thank you, Jovan. Thank you, Amender. I'm going to give you 1 minute for your closing remarks. And if you want to take a little bit of that time to make sure that you let people know where they can find you, where they can where your social networks, where you stream, etc. Make sure to also do that. Let me do this. 1 minute on the clock. And who started?
That's
Amender
50.
started the debate, right? So let's start now with Jovan, and Amender will go last. 1 minute. There we go.
Yeah, so I believe, as I've been saying multiple times, I think that capitalism is an inherently flawed means of an economic system. Like I said, I argue that socialism would fix these inequities. And I think I showed pretty well that there hasn't been a true attempt at socialism without interference. If you want to see more of my stuff, my YouTube is Jovan M. Bradley. Every other thing, my Instagram, my TikTok, my Twitch is Jovan_Bradley. I have a Patreon that you get exclusive debate content on. We're running the gambit, so come join us if you are a leftist and you like leftist content. Me and Amender agree on a lot of stuff, so a lot of stuff he debates I also debate. So if you like some of Amender's takes, other than we just disagree on economic systems, but almost everything else we pretty much agree on.
We agree on trans rights, bro. Trans rights.
True,
Let's
true,
go.
true.
We are pro-trans over here. Hell yeah.
By the way, I'm interrupting the last 5 seconds of your outro.
Sorry.
Because you interrupted the last 5 seconds of mine.
Sorry.
Nope, it's too late. I'm doing it.
All right, that's fair.
All right. Let me reset the timer. Amender, 1 minute for you. Go ahead.
My family comes from Chile, and we lived through Salvador Allende. It was fucking awful. We went to the United States, and we it was fucking rough. It was hard. You know, capitalism's tough, and sometimes capitalism, people need more help getting a leg up. I argue that people should be able to pull themselves up by their bootstraps, and I think that there's just like basic social safety nets that can be applied that allow people the ability like to pull themselves up by their bootstraps. If like the entire like bottom rung of the ladder can get like basically a little bit higher, like so that way people like just start off at a higher spot. I don't care if there's like a bunch of billionaires in that case. I just want the system itself to be easier to climb up, and you know, and I just don't want to take down the entire system because I've seen what systems look like when they're taken down, and it's fucking awful. And I think Jovan is mistaken.
Rah rah, cheetah girls, rah rah.
All right. So this has been a debate on Modern Day Debates Discord. We are a neutral platform holding debates on politics, religion, science, and pretty much all topics that you can imagine. We have crossed the boundary of 5,500 users. So you can find pretty much anyone to debate at any time. We have users from all over the world. My name is Max. I'm a moderator here, and you can also find me on YouTube at Matters Now. And I recently made an X account. It's my nickname, MXXXD_DJ. So if you're interested, give me a follow. Thank you both, gentlemen, for the debate. It was very interesting. Thank you, the audience, for the questions. We will close the stage now, and we'll catch you on the next one. Thank you very much, and have a good night.
Thank y'all. Yeah.
Yeah.
It was nice talking to you, Jovan. That was pretty cool.
Yeah. I'm a loser with the interrupted though, homie.
I'm
Jesus.
sorry, man. I'm sorry. I got fucking ADD,
Every
bro.
5 minutes.
Oh, god damn it. Bro, I just got fucking disconnected. Oh, hold on. All right. That shit was crazy, man. I think I'm going to probably do another maybe hour worth of playing and just debating, or if anybody wants to. Let me see here. I'm going to get Extremo up here. Give me a moment, okay, Extremo? What's up, Extremo? How you doing, buddy?
Damn, man.
What?
Man, I'm gonna have to go get a pack of Rillos and smoke a couple blunts after that performance, bro. That was intense.
Was it really bad? Did I do bad?
Well, no, not you, bro. It's just, you know me and communists, bro. I think it's just kind of funny. It's ironic to me that the guy makes money on talking shit on YouTube, and then has the audacity to say that capitalism is bad.
I mean, yeah, it is true. Like, he's like a guy who just like thrives on capitalism, and it's just like,
right.
Like, what? How am I supposed to like have a discussion? Like, I don't know with that. It's like, I feel like he doesn't have that life experience to like. But
right.
I mean, again, like that's like I guess it's like a personal attack, which is fair. But like, I think that there's like some legitimacy to that, in that like he just doesn't have enough life experience to be like, yeah, you know, maybe I'm just like listening to something that's not correct. I'm going to see if I can get Jovan back here. Hold on.
Yeah, go ahead, man. You were debating them, not me, bro.
Let me see here. Hold on.
Yeah, because I even posted that on the thing. I was like, bro, I wish he would start a small business and make it a co-op and then like run it from, and then tell me the same thing.
You know,
yeah.
Something I wanted to bring this up, Amender. Something you could have brought up that I've brought up in these debates is that it's really easy. It's pretty easy to be a socialist under capitalism, but the same cannot be said for being a capitalist under socialism.
Oh, for
you
sure.
know what I mean?
For sure. Yeah. Absolutely. Completely agree with you. That's like one
Well,
of
this
those.
idea is that capitalism shouldn't exist at all, bro. Like their
Yeah, I'm aware.
commodities shouldn't be worked for. They should just be given away by the state,
Ah, we got
and they
Jovan.
could. Yeah.
Socialism W.
I'm gonna move. Is it okay if I move you out? I'm
Socialism
gonna move you
L.
out to audience. I don't want everybody dogpiling Jovan. Believe it or
Social.
not, we
I won't
just-
be here. I won't be here long. I'm also still streaming, so y'all don't say anything that's gonna get you caught by the FBI. But socialism W, capitalism L. That's my take.
So, I mean, I just have to agree to disagree. I don't know. But that's fine. Like, I'll get out of the debate mode and just like, that was good. That was good. I enjoyed that. I mean, I'm sure your audience is going to say that like I was terrible or whatever, which is fine. I get it. You know, it's kind of part of being like a politic. There's going to just be the opposite side that's just going to disagree, which is okay.
You got that source on infant mortality and fat people?
The what?
Don't tell me you literally said the U.S.'s infant mortality is high because fat people crush their babies.
Yeah. No, it took a while to actually find that one. That is not an easy. Hold on. Let me see if I can find it. Hold on.
I
Why
didn't
is
think of
it
doing
so
the
high
after
in-
show because I am.
It's okay. It's fine.
I
We're
need
just
to
in
do
the
some
open member
stuff.
stage. You're good. You're good.
Yeah. But I'll finish doing what I need to do and I'll come back because I have a few things to say on this.
On fat people?
No, on
Wait,
capitalism and communism. I'll be
Right.
back.
Okay. Let me see if I can find it. Hold on.
I'll message you privately, Amender, but I have some debate tips that will help your platform grow.
All right, man. I really appreciate it. That would be nice. You know, well, I mean, again, I just started posting videos and stuff. So, you know, I got over 100 subs within a very short period of time. So, you know, it's growing. It's going to take time to make it a thing. So, yeah, I mean, it is what it is. It's okay. That doesn't bother me that it's small. You know, just give it time. Give it some love. I'm sure it'll grow.
Someone asked me, they said, you missed a good point. It's easy to be a socialist under capitalism, but hard to be a capitalist under social. I don't know what that point's making, though. I don't know what's the point of the
Capitalists end up dying
statement.
under socialism, but under capitalism, a socialist and worker co-ops are completely compatible. I'm surprised we didn't even talk about worker co-ops.
I don't know that I would agree with this when we look at the like massive amount of deaths caused by capitalists trying to end communist experiments. Like Vietnam,
That's
definitely
fair.
it definitely wasn't easier to be a communist in Vietnam during the height of the Vietnam War.
That's fair.
Capitalists really made that difficult.
Yeah, that's I don't disagree with that, right? Like I don't agree that we should implement our interventionism like that. You know, I mean, you and I are going to be on the same side. I do think that like ideas need to propagate through peace and like, but let's be honest here, right? You don't think that the USSR was like, you know, a peaceful nation, right? Like they were specifically going after the bourgeoisie and considering killing people that were like capitalist nations. Is that not the case?
No, but this is my thing. Is I don't think capitalist nations are peaceful nations.
That's
so
fine.
Like if we're
you're just
arguing,
giving
if
a
we're arguing,
whataboutism.
no, we're not. If the argument is like
You're saying, what about this
nation is
other thing?
bad, no, if we're saying that this nation is bad because of X, so we need to go to a system that doesn't have X, but that system also has X. I don't know what we're arguing, but I also said like
I mean,
I
that
don't
just
think
means
we
you have a
need
problem
to-
with X, not the system. And X exists in both systems. So switching
Yeah,
to that
so that-
system doesn't magically make it better.
I never claimed it did. I don't claim that
claimed that
socialism is going to be.
fixed
I don't claim that socialism is going to be a utopia. I don't claim that communism would be a utopia. Every system is going to have issues, challenges, and no system is perfect. I would never claim that any is. I just want to see which system looks like it's going to provide the better outcomes. And to me, that would be a socialist one.
Well, that's what I argue. But then I argue like a capitalist system with social safety nets. But honestly, if you really want it, like 100 years into the future, it would not surprise me that automation is so rampant that people just don't have to work. And people just kind of like live, and they effectively get the communist utopia, except there exists like a series of technocratic democratic oligarchs that control everything. That is likely what would happen in terms of the material dialectic more realistically than like this is assuming that we don't run into like the giant filter of like pushing ourselves off of petroleum. But that's a different
Do you want
discussion.
to argue with a real? Do you want to argue with a real socialist? Because I could bring up the person that helps me debate prep and things. You want to talk about a true blue socialist historian?
Well, if you do bring her up, you better move yourself down, and I'll bring her up, and we can have they can have the discussion. But yeah,
I don't know. I asked her if she's free. My baby girl Sean. But you two will not be able to. I don't know that you two will be able to talk unmoderated. I don't know that you two would be able to.
I can do. Okay, I interrupt, but I can do it. Like I could. I do
wait,
interrupt though.
Where
It's just
was
it's a
that?
flaw
Where
I
was that
have.
energy, Amender? Where was that energy 10 minutes ago?
What do you mean that energy? I was trying not to interrupt. I was trying my hardest.
I was trying not to.
Yeah,
I'm
correct.
gonna go back tomorrow. Tomorrow, I'm gonna go through that video, and I'm gonna time how long you talked versus how long I talked.
It's probably
And
about
I
the
can't wait for
same.
that.
It's probably
I
about the same.
fucking
Send me the math.
disagree.
Send me the math. I'm sure one of your fans will be like crazy enough to like do the math on that. But like, I think it's probably about the same. I don't know.
I fucking disagree.
Okay, that's fair.
I'm gonna do it tomorrow.
I
can't
interrupt people. Okay, it's a fault of mine. Okay, what happens is you say something I disagree with. It fucking makes me lose my mind, and I'm like, fuck. Now I'm stuck on this. I can't fucking focus on anything else until I just blurt it out. Just say something quick because this one little thing is wrong, and he's predicating everything on this one little thing. Oh God, I gotta say something.
Somebody said I find it ironic that you make money talking on YouTube and hate capitalism so much. I hate this argument of like capitalism is just when people have jobs. I make money because I produce labor. I do labor, and people pay me for my labor. Honestly, as a YouTuber, I feel like I'm in a better position because I'm directly paid for my labor, and I don't need to negotiate a price with a unless you count Twitch taking 40%. You could count that, I guess.
I don't understand why you don't see a value in like liquidity though. Like you just like any economics system is going to tell you that like having more trade is better. And this agrees under socialism as well as like as capitalism. Like having trade means that like more people get the things that they find valuable, which results in like higher quality of living standards. Like this is just ubiquitously understood. And for whatever reason, you say that like liquidity is not important, but the reality is that it is important.
Yeah, I just like I said, I disagree. I think under a socialist system, we wouldn't need liquidity because the basic things people are going to buy would be given to them. That's just my opinion on that.
But what if they want more? People always want more.
So they go out and make more. I don't know that I would agree that people always want more.
Yes, they do.
I think the concept of greed as we know it came about via capitalism, because how many indigenous tribes were there that didn't strive to make giant empires and stuff like that? That wasn't a thing.
Situation where you're like ever satisfied with like the amount that you've made? Like you're always thinking that, hey, maybe I could do this. Maybe it's, this would be better. Or like you don't ever think that?
If I'm satisfied with the amount I'm satisfied with what I make now. If I make more, cool, but I'm totally satisfied in what I make now.
Okay, but like wouldn't it be nice if you could make more? Like you could do more things.
Sure, but I'm satisfied right now.
Okay, but you could be more satisfied.
I don't believe there's such a thing as more satisfied. I think you're either I don't think satisfied's a sliding scale. I think you're either satisfied or you're not satisfied.
Oh, I think satisfied is a spectrum, my good sir.
Oh, we would just disagree on that.
I would like to address what Extremo McCool said, because I am also a socialist communist. I'm from Uruguay, and in my country, the best years that we've ever had in our 200 years of history were the times that the left was in power. And Extremo is saying that like first of all, he made a little jab about YouTube not being a job. It is a job. It takes a massive effort to be on stream for hours and hours on end.
Well,
It's
it's not just
it's
that,
something
just
that you need
establishing a
to
following is
practice
fucking
for, and
nuts.
you need to be good at it. It's like any other job. And then I told him that it is a job, and he went, "Yeah, you're right because of capitalism." But what I am arguing is that even if if tomorrow the whole world was socialist, I would still be doing the same thing, because even though it's a job and there's an effort to it, I still enjoy it.
I don't know that I'd be a streamer if we had socialism. There was so much I wanted to do. Streaming was kind of where I ended up. You know what I mean?
Yes.
Streaming was kind of where I ended up, but it wasn't like my initial like it wasn't the thing as a kid I wanted to do. So I don't necessarily know that sans streaming or sans capitalism I would still be doing streaming, but I would just argue again, like one of my biggest pet peeves is when people go, well, you engage in the capitalist system. Yes, I have to, or I don't.
Yeah, I have no
I have
choice.
to do it or I don't eat.
Yeah, that's why I didn't even bring that up. It's like you engage in
Such
like,
a-
obviously, yeah, you have to. You don't have a choice. But like, I mean, I don't know. At the same time, it's like you're not just living in the capitalist system, though, Jovan. You're thriving in it. You are doing better than most people.
Yeah, okay. What's the point?
I'm just saying. It's like I think if you lived in a socialist country, or like even if it was like completely left alone to its own devices, I think you would exhibit a starkly lower quality of life, and I don't think you would like realize you miss it until it's gone.
But like what would I be missing?
What? The choice you have, the freedom you have, the everything you have. You take it for granted.
I'm totally fine with losing that if it meant everybody on the planet had home, water, and food and healthcare. I'm totally fine.
Wait,
totally fine.
You can have food, water, and healthcare under a capitalist system. You just have more social safety nets.
No, I said if it means that everybody worldwide gets all of the necessary requirements that they need to live,
I don't think
I'm
that's
totally fine with
necessarily
giving up.
possible because of the fact that we live on
but
a single Earth where things are finite. So unless if you want to drag everybody else down to like the same level, then
This is what I talk about. This is what I talk about when I feel like you pose a question, I answer the question, and then you change the premise of the question.
No,
the
I'm
question
not.
you
Wait,
proposed
it's
to
the
me.
same question.
What you proposed to me is, would I be okay living in a socialist system? You said I would miss the things that I have currently.
Yes.
And I said, no, if the socialist system worked the way that I wanted it to, no, I would not miss the things that I currently have. And then you go, but X, Y, and Z also to the point. Like, no, I answered the question.
Sure. Yeah. Wait, hold on. Like, yeah, sure. Add context to the question, which, I mean, like you're answering the thing, but I don't find it to be a satisfactory answer.
Just because you disagree with my answer.
Do you want to get some people in here into the room? Because we have a couple of 4 people with their hands raised.
Yeah.
They want to come on stage.
Sure. Why not? Yeah.
All right, let's do it in turns, and let me see.
This is where I start like being able to pull up like videos and stuff, and I'm able to. I'm sorry. This is where at the point where I begin to be able to make my own videos and stuff, because like this is where the individual debates come. Anyway, go ahead.
Okay.
I'll probably dip out in like 15, give or take.
Sure thing.
All right. Okay, so let's get the first 2 on here. Why isn't it working? Oh, there we go.
Hello.
Hey, how you doing?
Hello,
Splicker?
welcome.
Yo.
Doing fantastic. How you guys doing?
Great, man.
Chilling.
Not gonna lie, that was an extremely entertaining debate. I was a big fan. It's a little weird though, because I came up to debate something completely unrelated to capitalism, socialism. So I don't know. Maybe I should debate like a little bit later after other people get their more like substantive stuff out of the way.
Yeah,
You know what I'm saying?
maybe yeah. Because Jovan is leaving in a few, so
Yeah,
the
exactly.
after shows are usually related to a topic, but we can keep going after. So let's bring.
Yeah. I'll see you guys in a bit. Although Jovan, I like your voice. You're pretty cool.
Hey, yo, thanks, Squaw.
All right.
Yeah.
All right, let's bring
all right.
Yupogo and Space Apache, and I'll send you back
They
to
don't
the
like my
audience.
voice.
I
Jovan,
just
they
had
don't
a
like my
tiny
voice.
jab what Amender said earlier. Sorry, I almost said American because he tagged me. The whole you lack experience thing, that would also end up being a fallacy.
It is
Yeah,
fallacious.
lack of
I'll grant you that.
experience.
That doesn't mean it's wrong.
Well, it's okay. Yes, that would be fallacy, but the fact that you making that as an argument on its own would be just wrong in of itself.
I already presented my arguments. I'm saying that like he probably likes these things, and I think it's a lack of life experience that if he were to suddenly lose all of those things, he might actually miss those things, and therefore he'd probably
So
not
you're-
be
you're
as.
essentially
I would just
saying
argue that I
he's-
grew up poor, so I know what it's
So
like to not have those things.
You're incidentally saying
Yeah,
that
me
he is
too.
doing it out of a privileged stance that is like confirmation biased, sort of.
I'm saying he
Like
lives
biased in
under
a way?
with a great deal of privilege, and he would probably miss those things. Yeah.
Like a sort of like a selective blindness type of thing.
So I wanted to point out something like maybe Jovan, I don't know his life history, maybe he was born into privilege, okay? Maybe he hasn't lived without it, but I have. And I can tell you that under socialism, I'm not a communist like Jovan because he strikes me as a full communist. I am a market socialist, okay? Under market socialism, you don't have to technically give up your nice things. You'll have plenty of nice things. It's just that more people will have nice things. You can't really become a full-blown billionaire, all right? And by the way, I would be willing to engage in some degree of hardship to give up a lot of the things that I have in order to achieve this. In fact, I regularly already do. So I think making this argument that Jovan lacks experience, he doesn't know what it's like to live a hard life, well, I'll back Jovan up on this as somebody who has lived a hard life, that I think it's very possible to do this. I think he would be okay.
I'm changing my name to Jovan now. By the way, I like it better.
Fair enough.
But yeah, I would just say I grew up poor. I didn't grow up rich. I didn't start making. I've been homeless. I literally was homeless. I was living in the back of an office building that I worked on. I was living in the back room for months. Like, I know what it's like to not have material things, right? And I can confidently say I would be okay losing some of my material things if it meant that everybody had their basic needs met.
Not me, bro. I fucking worked hard as shit for my stuff and what meager things I have, and I'm okay. I worked fucking hard as shit for these things, and dude, I went to South America, and I've seen poverty. I've seen real fucking poverty, not like in the United States with this like normal level of poverty. I'm talking some real fucking shit, like favela like stuff. It's fucking awful. I can't even imagine.
Any argument
Well,
I
I
make
wanna
to
make
that
the
would
point
just be a virtue signal.
Well, the issue here is that the level of poverty, I've also been to plenty of third world countries more than just South America, and ironically, like, I don't think you've seen true poverty in the United States. Like, go to Mississippi and Louisiana in the rural areas and see third world level conditions, in many cases
Some of them are.
worse than
That's
third
true.
world level conditions. And so, like, this is like Appalachia, abject poverty, a lot of indigenous
I've been to Appalachia. I've seen it. It's very poor.
Chicago. It's insane. Chicago, Atlanta, the poor areas there. It's hovels. It's on par with the favelas, on par with Cambodia, which I just got back from. And a couple of the arguments I would like to address real quick. The innovation argument. So Mender kept making the innovation argument. Innovation under capitalism is incremental innovation, similar to what the Soviets did with their tanks, where you built the T-55, and they built the T-72, and they built the T-80, then they built the T-90. These are all innovations on the same idea, right? Which incremental innovation is a part of capitalism, and I do appreciate. That's part of why I'm a market socialist. I do appreciate some aspects of incremental innovation. However, exponential innovation does not happen under capitalism. On average, you want to know why? Because it's fucking expensive. It costs a lot of money, and it's uncertain. So capitalists do not fund experimental growth, which is what we generally refer to when we talk about exponential innovation. Okay, do you know how, including in the modern era, with all the capitalism in America, guess who does the most exponential innovation? It is space companies under government funding, not private capital. Government funding does this. Private capital will only innovate at an incremental level because it's safe and it's reliable and it makes money to get things like touchscreen LCDs and GPS and so on, and implants for bodies, like pacemakers, to get ballistic missiles, to get all of the stuff that we have. These were literally innovated under government-funded programs because you can afford to run down rabbit hole after rabbit hole without having to worry about a profit incentive.
Yeah, I don't argue that the government, shouldn't do innovations. I agree. Like, do innovations, also market. Like what?
But there's a difference between incremental and when we talk about
That's fine.
innovations,
That's
we're
fine. Do
generally
both.
talking
You
about-
don't have to have one or the other. You can just do both.
We're generally talking about exponential innovations, like true massive growth,
Yeah, that's
right?
fine. You can do
only
both.
See that. You only see that under socialistic programs.
That's
You don't see that
that's
under
fine if government
capitalistic
also government doesn't mean therefore socialism, but it doesn't matter. Like you can
That's
have
what I
government
said.
programs and private companies do the same thing. These are not antithetical to one another.
I'm not saying
We
they're
do it all the
antithetical. I'm saying that the capitalists constantly use the innovation argument, but they're only really good at one type of innovation, and that's not the type of innovation people usually think about when they're talking about innovation. Only socialistic programs, even if it's not a
Depends.
socialist government like America, can do exponential innovation.
It depends.
Only they can afford it. It doesn't depend. Show me
does
one
depend.
capitalist organization that does rapid exponential innovation. Show it to me.
We did it with the blue LCD light. Well, actually, not we, but a private company did in fact do that with a blue LCD light, whereas normally that wouldn't have been possible. LED
was
light,
based
yeah,
on the
LED light,
innovations
yes.
that happened during the space race. The LEDs came from the space race. They were part
No,
of
no,
government
the
funding.
blue
You know
LED
that,
was
right?
not possible until a private company discovered it.
It's still incremental, low-level innovation.
That's
It's
not an
it's
incremental
still
low-level
fun.
innovation. You can't
Literally
actually have all of the nice things that we have, like with all of the nice screens that we have, without the blue LED. It's literally impossible. We needed that
But
to
the
happen.
LEDs already existed. The technology
Yeah, but the
already
blue LED in particular was extremely hard. Nobody could figure it out. It was only by one private company, this one dude, that figured it out. It was insane. It changed everything.
Now, it's all it is.
Yeah, but that's not
It's an
incremental. That's
adaptation
a
to an
giant
existing
push.
platform. That is incremental. It's an adaptation to an existing platform. It's not like
fine. We'll just
ballistic
agree to
missiles, for
disagree
example.
at this point.
I mean, just looking at like a very surface level of the guy Shuji Nakamura who invented the blue LED, he brought the idea to the company, was like begged them to allow him to work on it. Like he could have just like if we had a structure where you bring an idea to a national committee and they do it, he could have done it the same way. Right. I don't know that this would necessarily. I just don't know that the argument this
he's
would be
asking
impossible.
in particular, was there
under-
an instance where capitalism actually made a giant change? This is an example. That's all.
So when I was talking about-
Veritasium.
You're saying it could work. Sure, maybe, but that's not what happened, right? In reality, it was a private company that did that.
Veritasium made a really cool video on the
Yeah,
story
watch
of
it.
the
It's
blue LED. I put it in the side chat, like right there.
Well,
If you
yeah.
want, you
It's
can check it
actually
out
amazing. It's a
afterwards.
really cool video.
The issue
Highly
is when we
recommend.
talk about exponential innovation, we're talking about things like take the first ICBMs, for example. Innovated by the initial research started by the Nazis, definitely under government programs, right? Nothing like that had ever existed before. Nothing like that had ever existed before. It was not an adaptation to a pre-existing piece in technology. It was an entirely new piece of technology. Okay, they innovated it. They innovated the first V2 rockets, and then the communists came along, the Soviets in particular, and they are the ones that actually created the first ICBMs, right? Took it from a small V2 rocket that could go a few hundred miles and turn it into an intercontinental ballistic missile, all right? That is exponential innovation. The Soviets won the space race effectively. Every fucking point in the space race, except for landing a man on the moon, the Soviets did first. You want to know why? Because you can afford exponential innovation under these types of programs. No capitalist company did that. None. Zero. They don't engage in this level of innovation. It just doesn't happen.
As opposed to what, like, I mean, what about like the invention of like the global trade system, like the banking system that we have? It's like huge. It's changed everything.
The banking system has been around. Is an adaptation from something that's been
But
around.
that's not an
literally
incremental
forever. Money has
change.
been around.
But that's not an
Money has been
incremental
around
change. That's a
for
giant
literally-
change. It's not even a matter of like money. It's like credit and the like automation of credit, making like entire giant markets for this. Roth IRAs. There's so much to this. That's like, it's like, wow, it's really not like, and that is a giant innovation. There's a lot of people that benefited greatly from this. That's just one example. What
Yeah,
about
a
the
lot of
cell
very
phone?
rich
That's another example. Like
Cell
the
phone-
cell phone
cell
itself
phone came
is
from
entirely, is absolutely very
it's not.
much a private innovation.
No, it's not. No,
What?
it's not.
Apple
Actually,
is the
first
one
cell
that
phone
made
was
it.
no,
They
no,
made.
no,
They
no.
started with
First
it.
cell phone- You're incorrect. The first
Apple's the
cell phone
one that
was
made the
actually
cell phones?
Hold
The
on, hold on.
the first smartphone, yeah.
Hey, give me
Oh.
no. Hold on. I'm gonna get on a point. Smartphone. You said cell phone. The
Sorry,
first cell phone was actually
smartphone.
innovated
I
by the
misspoke. That's
first
fair.
cell. Hold on. The first cell phone was taken from the Soviets. Actually, the
Yeah,
Soviets invented the
smartphone,
first cell phone. And then
smartphone.
the U.S. government innovated the touchscreen LCD, all right, for their space program. And what Apple did is it took two pieces of pre-existing technology, exponential innovation, right, and combined it and created the first smartphone. But before the first smartphones, there were plenty of cell phones. So once again, incremental innovation. That is not exponential. It is
The
incremental.
smartphone is not.
But
I
they
mean,
were
you're just saying it's
smartphones.
incremental because it's incremental. But I think that you're just operating on your own definition. Obviously, the smartphone changed everything. So no, that's not an incremental change. That's a giant change.
They didn't use your first statement was they innovated the first cell phone, which they didn't do.
Yeah,
They
I
didn't even
misspoke. I
innovate the
literally
first
told
cell
you I
phone. They
misspoke.
didn't.
So are you just going to be stuck on the thing that I misspoke on, or are you just going to actually address my
I'm
position?
getting to the point. I'm getting to the point. Even the first smartphone wasn't even necessarily innovated by Apple. A lot the technology for the first smartphone was actually innovated from the U.S. government programs. You know that, right? They bought the tech and then popularized it.
Got it.
I'm done for right now. If somebody else wants to get on stage, I'm gonna make room.
All right. We can get watch my legs that raised their hand. And then we're going on to Wire. Hello. You are muted, just so you know.
You talking to me?
Yes. Hello.
Oh, okay. Hello. How are you?
How you doing? Watch my legs.
Very good.
What's up, baby girl?
I'm good. I was volunteered by Jovan to come up. I have a few minutes.
How you doing?
What
do you want to talk about?
I'm okay. I really more so wanted to talk about this argument that's being made. One of the arguments, someone already addressed it, and regardless of whether or not it's a fallacy, capitalists don't have any actual sources for this. Like the idea that underneath socialism you would have to live with less. There is no basis in that. That is a made up thing.
How's that made up? No, we can observe that.
No, we can't.
What? No, when you can track the HDI and look at HDI and what is the level that they are at versus the amount of years that they spent under socialism, and indeed the more amount of time that they spent under socialism does in fact result in the HDI being lower overall, and that's the entire thing. I can I literally plotted it myself. That does happen. So you saying that's not in fact the case, that is the case.
It's not. Name a socialist country that is worse off before it was socialist. It moved towards a socialist model.
I agree with you that you can have industrialization in various forms that result in better quality of living outcomes, which is fine.
Wait,
but the problem is that happens under any industrialization. But the question is what is the result of that said industrialization? How much faster are we talking, and does it result in a higher outcome in the end?
Yeah, the USSR industrialized 7 times faster than any capitalistic country.
It wasn't 7 times faster. It was about 15. It was actually only about 15 years faster, and with about 70 million. I think it was 50 million lives to boot in death in order to make that happen.
The deaths that happened underneath the industrialization of the USSR was due to the conditions before the USSR, because people were already suffering underneath starvation.
The USSR was already underway. Under the industrialization efforts under Stalin. What are you talking about?
The heaviest industrialization that happened in the USSR happened during World War II.
Yeah.
So what
Stalin.
you're talking about right now. Yeah, exactly. Which the conditions that happened before that, because before that they were at war. Yeah, because of the conditions that happened before the USSR. Wait, it was because of the conditions that happened before the USSR. The reason as to why, what was
all
Lenin's...
blame. You've removed all falsification principle at this point.
Wait, hold on. No, it's not. No, it's not. It's because it's actual historical materialism. It's historical materialism. What was Lenin's promise to the people of Russia, and why he gained so much popularity?
I don't. I suppose I don't know.
Right, that's
Like
important
he would
because
transfer the
his
ownership of the
promise.
means of production to the working class and fulfill Marx's dream.
That's every. Wait, no, that's every communist like thing. Lenin had a very specific promise to the Russian people. If you don't know what that is, then you understand the conditions of Russia before they became the USSR. It was
like
peace,
their
land,
goal
and
was to remove the
hold on,
SARS. I mean,
hold on. No, the goal was to remove the czars and also the provisional government. But it was peace, land, and bread. Like Lenin promised them peace, land, and bread. Why would he promise them peace, land, and bread?
because people were really hungry, people didn't have land, and things weren't peaceful because they were living under the czars.
No. Things weren't peaceful because they were involved in World War One, and they did not want to be involved in World War One. And before they were involved in World War One, they were involved in a war with Japan. Okay. And he was promising them peace to pull out of World War One so they can build up their own country because they were underneath debts that the Tsar had created for serfs. The serfs did not own the land that they were working on. Great. And so they could not accumulate any capital in any way, shape, or form. That's why they were given land. So,
what is your argument?
Starving. Right. Hold on, because you have to listen to this whole thing. You have to understand the historical context.
Okay.
And the bread was because they were literally starving to death. Like there was famines in Russia before even the Holodomor. So the conditions of like people dying whilst the industrialization was happening was something that the industrialization was trying to tackle. It was the conditions from before that caused the deaths. It wasn't the conditions of the industrialization
there were multiple
itself.
Famines. You're talking about the one prior, but we were talking about the one after, and I'm telling you that industrialization happened, which does make people's lives better, but also at the death of millions of lives. That didn't happen under the Gilded Age in the United States. It took 15 years longer, but we didn't have 30 million deaths.
That's absolutely false. That's 100% false. Because yes, it was because during the
industrialization, what was happening? Deaths.
Hold on, wait. What was happening during industrialization of the United States? What was our
It was an unbridled
system?
Capitalism to push for that caused a ton of power under robber barons. Robber barons ended up owning everything. And people's lives got a lot better, and there were people that were extremely poor.
Wait, tell us what the economic system was in the United States during the industrialization of the United States.
Capitalist, the second. We're talking about the second industrialization.
Capitalist. Okay, excellent. You can say capitalist. What was the capital?
Money. What do you mean?
What, money?
You said what was the capital? Money.
What was it? Money?
Yeah, money.
Jovan, what was the capital during the industrialization of the United States?
What was the capital?
Or was it oil?
Yes.
Do you want me to say oil?
I would probably argue it was labor.
It was slaves. It was literally black bodies.
Oh, you're going that far?
No,
okay.
No, the second industrial revolution. It was already outlawed. No, that was already outlawed.
Wait, no, slavery in the United States
slavery was not
just about. Stop. The slavery in the United States didn't even end until about 1964 because sharecroppers were still underneath leases and they could not leave their plantations.
If you take the most charitable concept, if you're gonna look at the prison system, for example, as being like slavery because they work and they basically expropriate that and they're forced to work, that would be an equivalency of slavery. I would not consider this anywhere close to chattel slavery. I'm sorry.
No,
I would tell you that we had a giant civil war that ended the chattel slavery that we're referring to. And I guess if you want to be super charitable, that there still existed slavery. I just disagree.
Wait, but during the industrialization, it was slavery, and the entire point of
the second industrialization was after Lincoln freed the slaves. It was after the Civil War. So I don't know what you're talking about.
Who were the sharecroppers until 1964?
I'm not
what
saying,
demographic of people in the United States?
I don't know specifically.
It was black people. You know the answer. It was black people. And why were black people predominantly the sharecroppers in the United States until 1964?
I don't know, but I'm sure you're going to tell me.
Because of the debt that needed to be paid because of reparations given to slave owners.
I mean, like, I'm not going to
Like, how can you not
argue.
consider this an extension of slavery?
I mean, I'm not going to argue. I'm not going to argue in favor of that. Like, what are you talking about? What is this?
I'm talking about the when you're talking about the industrialization of people, the industrialization of a country. Like, you're blaming the USSR for the conditions of the industrialization and saying that people didn't unalive, even though multiple slaves died during both industrialization of the United States.
Yeah. So, but wait, like, again, you don't have 30 million dead slaves as a result of the second industrial, and this is assuming your charitability, which is way beyond what would be historically appropriate. The slaves were already free. The slaves were already freed after Lincoln. Okay, the Gilded Age would have happened after Lincoln. So there are no slaves. Now, you could argue, hey, maybe under the sharecropping model, yeah, that's technically a slave, but largely it had been outlawed. So again, you can't sit there and bring up this like outlier as if like slavery is. In fact, I could argue in 2024 there's still slaves under the basis that there exist prison systems that are for-profit model. That would literally be a slave by your very metric, and I just disagree. This is like historical revisionism.
Wait, I'm talking about a direct result of the transatlantic slave trade and black people still being enslaved in the United States until 1964 because of reparations that needed to be paid to slavers who were paid reparations for losing their slaves.
Was
saying
slavery
that
outlawed as a part of the Emancipation Proclamation? Yes or no?
No, it was codified.
It was codified? How so?
Yes.
Under prisons, right?
Underneath prisons, yes. But also underneath sharecropping.
Okay, well,
like the government allowed these.
I would say that like if I pulled up the Emancipation Proclamation, this is largely by most historians, they would sit there and just tell you that this is where like they ended slavery. Like that would be the existence. I mean, like I guess if you wanted it to additionally include this outlier, sure, I guess. I mean,
it's not an outlier. Stop saying that.
What?
Stop saying it's an outlier.
Were most people freed after the Emancipation Proclamation?
No.
What?
No.
All right, kill me. All right,
no.
Just kill me. It's over.
There was still slavery in Texas after the Emancipation Proclamation. That's literally what is Juneteenth about? Wait. What is First Amendment? What was Juneteenth about? Why is Juneteenth a holiday?
I don't know what that is.
Okay, you don't know what come on, dog.
I don't know what it is.
Greece, this isn't real.
I don't know what it
is. This is just disingenuous, my boy.
What? No, I'm not being disingenuous. I don't know what it is. What's Juneteenth? Explain it.
So Juneteenth was the day the final slaves were freed from Texas.
Okay, cool.
Which happened well after the Emancipation Proclamation was passed.
Okay.
So
did it not? Was that not the act that did the thing?
No,
they ignored it.
If people are still enslaved after the Emancipation Proclamation, then obviously the Emancipation Proclamation freed the slaves.
Okay, so I'm just curious. Would you want the Emancipation Proclamation to not be a thing?
Stop saying that. You keep
Why is it not an outlier?
Every single time I bring up a point that combats your point and disproves what it is that you're saying, you just say it's an outlier. Number one, outliers still exist.
If there's
so it takes away the point. And number two, my point is that you're ignoring the black bodies that were unalived due to slavery. In order for the United States to industrialize.
So let me ask you this, right? Let's say if I'm like cleaning a driveway, right? And as I'm cleaning the driveway, I'm using a pressure washer to clean the driveway. Let's assume that I got 95% of that driveway. Did I clean that driveway? Like I say, no. I'm done, 95. No, it's got to be 100% to you?
Yes.
I missed a couple of spots and your ass is just like, dude, I can't. Dude, this isn't clean.
Amender, if my mom said do the dishes and there's still 3 dishes in the sink, she's going to say I didn't do the dishes.
I'm saying you did 95% of it. Let's say you had like 10 dishes and you did all of the dishes except one of them has a speck. Did you do the dishes?
You did them incorrectly.
What?
But
No, you did the dishes.
point
As
is
far as
that-
I'm
but the
concerned, I'm like,
problem
hey,
is-
you
but the
did good
problem
enough.
is- the
That's good
problem
enough.
is- The problem is what you're arguing. The problem is that what you're arguing right now is that if I said, if I told you to do something like with the dishes, if I told you to do the dishes and you did even 3/4 of the dishes, you did not finish the dishes. Like the dishes were not done.
Give me a
Like
second.
the whole point of your argument is that after the Emancipation Proclamation, slavery was done. It was not. It wasn't even close. But on top of that, black people were still being unalive during the Industrial Revolution.
I
Even
agree with
after
you. Those are
slavery,
bad
due
things.
to things like Jim
Yeah,
Crow.
I agree.
But
I
slavery was
agree.
just
Wait,
one-
I agree. Fuck. I completely agree with you. Those are bad things.
Right. So this argument against the Soviet industrialization doesn't really hold any water.
Yeah, it does.
Like no, it doesn't.
It killed 30
because it
million
had to
people.
be-
We didn't have that. That didn't happen. The U.S.
It
didn't,
even have
have
30 million
30 million people die. That didn't happen.
And so you need to do it proportionately. You need to do
What?
it proportionately.
What
when
do
you do
mean?
when you do statistics,
we got
of
a
people being
huge amount of
unalive.
industrialization in the United States. You know what we didn't have? 30 million people dead as a
We
result
had
of
the
it.
proportionate rate of more than 30 million people unalive.
No, we didn't. No fucking.
Yes,
you can't
we
sit there
did.
and look at 400 years of history and then like compress that down to 40 years of history and just be like, these are the same thing. No, they're fucking not.
Wait. The reason as to why the Industrial Revolution
Oh
was
my
able
God.
to happen in the United States was because
is
the
infuriating.
accumulation of capital. Wait, no, it was because of the accumulation of capital and the ability to industrialize because of slave labor. Was it not?
I'm sorry, repeat that.
The reason why the United States was able to industrialize was because of the accumulation of capital due to the free labor given to them from slave labor.
I mean, like, do I think that like black people should get reparations? I mean, the answer is
That's
yes. But
not
again,
the question.
you're moving your
not the
goalposts.
question.
The point
No,
that I'm
it's
trying
not.
to
What?
make that it's 30 million dead versus not 30 million dead. It took 15 years longer for the United States. So what is that 15 years worth to you? 30 million?
Longer than 15 years.
No,
It
it
took
says
way
it
longer
took
than
15-year difference. The second
The reason
industrial
as-
revolution to the United States in comparison to the Bolshevik revolution for Russia. It took a lot less time for Russia. However, they had 30 million deaths. That didn't happen under the United States, and
We
it
had
took 15 years
proportionate-
longer. So if I
Longer.
gave like an exact amount of people, it's basically another 840,000 people dead per year. That's completely unacceptable. You're saying it is acceptable. I'm like, no, it's not. And even if you bring up like, it makes
It's
no
not even
fucking
close to what I
sense.
said. Wait, that's not even close to what I said. What I'm doing is disproving the idea that the United States didn't have like a massive amount of deaths during their two industrial revolutions that lasted for longer than like close to about 100 years. Because the reason why the actually it was longer than 100 years, because the reason why the Emancipation Proclamation was written was in order to industrialize. The entire point of the Emancipation Proclamation was to take away the agrarian society and move towards a more industrialized society. And we did not finish industrializing. So like, and I say we because I'm in the United States, but with the USSR, they did not do that. But the proportionate amount of deaths was proportionate in the United States. It was even argued more with black bodies alone. Like you're saying that the United States didn't have 30 million people because it didn't have a population of 30 million. Like,
What?
but the proportionate amount of deaths.
The United States did have a population of over 30 million, and there's not also a proportionate population of death. I'm sorry.
Yes, there is.
No, it's not. And also, you're moving your goalpost because you know
No,
you're
I'm
wrong
not.
here.
Wait, what am I moving my goalpost to?
Because
Explain the
you went
original
from the
argument.
total amount death to the proportion dead, but the proportion also doesn't work
Sean's been
out.
saying
There were
proportion
more
since the
than
beginning.
30 million
Amender.
people in the United States. In fact,
Amender,
the
Sean's
population in
been
the
saying
United
proportions since
States,
the beginning.
in fact, the United States had more people in there than it did in Russia.
Amender, just real quick. Sean's been saying proportional since the beginning.
Okay.
Just to answer the question, someone said, I just admitted that the getting rid of slavery led to capitalism, and no, it didn't. I mean, slavery was capitalism. Black bodies were the capital within capitalism. Capitalism needs slavery, which is why we still have slaves, which is why slavery is codified in the United States. But the point here is that the proportionate amount of deaths happened, but the deaths in the USSR, even though not okay, was also recognized by the people leading the revolution in the USSR, which is why they industrialized anyway, because they already had a crazy amount of deaths. And the industrialization was to stop those amounts of deaths and to also be able to protect themselves from invaders, because Germany had invaded them. You're just saying that they had people die, okay? Yeah, they had people die.
Yeah,
the conditions
way more
of the
death
world
than what is normal in a very short period of time.
The United
States didn't have that happen during the Gilded Age. That's my point.
States have way more death. The United States had way more death that is normal underneath slavery than any other slave system.
Yeah, if you look at the entire 400 years of history and try to compress that down into that 40-year gap, then yeah, I suppose so. But that's a lot of fucking time to compress to make it the equal number. I'm sorry. This doesn't work in terms of demographics. This doesn't work in terms of the ratios. This just doesn't work. It is obvious that under the second industrial revolution in the United States, that didn't result in 30 million deaths, but that did happen in Soviet Russia. You cannot argue against this. That is the fact.
Yes, I can. Yes, I can, because it resulted in proportionate deaths.
No, that's not how that works.
And on top of that, you're not understanding what the argument is. So I'm going to break it down. The argument isn't that within 400 years of slavery, the 30 million deaths that happened in the industrialization period that the United States had proportionate deaths to that of the USSR, even more, with black bodies alone. That did happen. Your argument against the Soviets falls flat on its face when it comes to the industrialization. It's just that simple. These are not things you can argue against.
So if you do the proportion, I believe the Soviet census shows it was about 103 million, and that was in the 1937 Soviet census. And in the United States, the Second Industrial Revolution was kicking into high gear around 1900. The population there is 76.3. So if we're talking about the difference there, it would be a difference of a 30% difference there. So if you're going to take 30 million, you can just go ahead and multiply that by 0.7. And so basically the equivalent amount of deaths would have to be 21 million. That is nowhere close. The ratios aren't correct. It's not. The math is not on your side here.
On top of that, Stalin only estimated around 10 million deaths. I was giving you 30 million just to show you that the proportionate amount of deaths in black bodies alone was
you said it was proportionate, but it's not proportionate. The math doesn't follow.
Absolutely.
I literally just did the math in front of you. I sat there and I said the math, and I pull the math, and I pull the numbers from credible sources. So it's not proportional. It's not.
Credible source. What credible sources?
What? I can pull up that was the Soviet census that I can pull up from Wikipedia, and then there is the U.S. population that shows up from Gilder Lehrman Institute of American History. So there's 76.3 million for that, and then the 103 million for the 1937 Soviet census. That's roughly around the time where you had the Soviet Industrial Revolution in comparison to the Second Industrial Revolution for the United States. So no, your proportions are wrong. Stop saying the thing that's wrong. It's wrong.
You're actually
let's tone it down, please.
But the point here is that you're talking about deaths that happened as a result of things that happened before the revolution. You're still talking about things that were conditions before the revolution. The reason as to why the USSR wasn't industrialized was because of globalized scales and keeping the czar in power because the West had interest in it. But even still, like again, the proportionates are correct because again, underneath Stalin, like the estimated amount of deaths is only around like 10 million. But
I don't know how to convince
alone,
you. I mean, I showed you the math. This doesn't
Okay,
go
I'll
away
pull up-
just because you want to talk it away. It's
I'll pull
still
up math.
there.
I'll
It's
pull
still a big problem.
Yeah, you don't want to address anything else because
I addressed
you know
it. You
Absolutely
made the
correct.
argument, and I decided, fine, pull up the numbers. Let's get some exact numbers. They're arguing proportion. Fine, let's argue the proportion. I just did the math to account for the proportion. You're wrong. It's wrong.
So let's see. Yeah, the most amount that I'm getting right now under Stalin in the 1930s is 8 million. No, I'll say 9 million because it's 3.9 million
Let me pull this
and
up.
5
I
million
have it written
pairs
down. I'll
are
give you the
13.
source.
When it comes to um
Hold on.
let me see. Let's see. No, that's not Stalin. Uh,
No, I have the numbers for China here. It shows if we take China into account, the country that industrialized at a much quicker pace than the United States by roughly 18 years. The U.S. Second Industrial Revolution existed between 1870 to 1914, 44 years. The Chinese industrialization occurred between 1964 and 1990, a short 26-year. Ultimately represents an unsustainable trade-off. For the extra 18 years, you end up with the deaths on anywhere between 15 million and 55 million people. And so even if you give the benefit of doubt of 15 million dead, that's like the low end, you still end up with a fundamental issue. For every year saved, you effectively killed 833,000 people a year to make that happen. It's reasonable to say that with while industrialization is comparable between nations, the methods to get there are radically different from one another. And so like I'm making the argument that it's like, you can't operate under these like unsustainable practices and then like tout just how wonderful these systems are when the reality is it's fucking awful. Nobody would want to live through this, and it's abhorrent to sit there and say, well, look how fast our industrialization is, and completely ignore the consequence of it.
Yeah, you're just ignoring the black bodies that died underneath.
Not at all.
Of the United States,
Not
you
at
absolutely
all.
are.
Nor do I
Because
argue
China's
against black
population was
people.
bigger.
I'm extremely
Even when we
pro.
do proportionality, stop. When we do proportionality with China, you don't even want to do that.
Yeah, but you're sandbagging my argument from the get-go.
No, I'm not.
You're
No,
sandbagging
I'm
my
not.
character.
I'm not sandbagging anything.
You're saying that I'm not accounting for black people.
No,
what is this?
No, you are. You absolutely
no, I'm
are.
not.
You're not accounting for
I
black
never
people.
ever said, hey, black people don't matter. Never did I ever imply that. And I even acknowledge
you don't have
the
to say
suffering
black
that black
people don't matter in
go through.
order to ignore that black people died underneath the
I
industrialization.
didn't ignore that black people died under industrialization.
Yes,
no, I didn't.
Yes, you did.
Yeah, it's not 30 fucking million. I can tell you that much. And it certainly isn't 20 million under that proportion. It's not.
They did not have 30
Yeah, no
million.
shit. So apply the proportion.
So
it's not 20 million.
When we're talking about proportions.
Okay. Hold on. I don't think we're going to come to an agreement on this, so I think I'm going to bring in Wire that has been waiting and see what he wants to add to the conversation. Watch my legs. Space Apache said to watch his, to look at his messages in the side chat, if you would.
I've been very patient.
Wire, how are you? What do you have?
I'm going very well, actually. I've got two. Oh, damn it! The commie guy's gone. It's going to ask him about money. But anyways,
you can ask me though.
Um, sure, but I'd like to ask First Amender about the blue LED thing specifically, because from what we watched the same video, of course, and it seems like when we were looking at that, it wasn't due to capitalism, but it seemed like capitalism was getting in the way of that happening, because the board kept on saying to stop this program to the Japanese scientist. They kept on saying over and over again. They kept on saying just to ditch it until he actually ceded. So it isn't because of capitalism the blue LED succeeded. It was because it was regardless of capitalism, because capitalism was being a bitch in that respect because of funding.
Okay.
It like at the end of the day, capitalism wants profitability, and obviously, if something isn't being profitable for a very, very long time, they're not going to support it.
Yeah.
So just in the future, probably don't use that as an example, because it's extremely weak and actually proves the opposite of innovation.
Okay. Are you saying the LED? I'm sorry, I
yeah, the blue
listened.
LED one you were talking about.
Yeah,
Oh,
I
I'm
mean,
deeply
sure.
offended. How dare
That's
you.
that's fair. Like that's fair. I'm just saying, hey, both. That's all.
Mhm.
I think
There
like making a distinction between incremental and like giant farms is stupid. That's just stupid. It's like people who argue that it's it's not macro evolution. You know, there's no macro evolution, so therefore it's just dumb. It's like wait, with enough micro you get a macro. It's like it literally doesn't matter. The distinction is stupid.
You'll have to admit, though, that the Soviet Union, even though it had a ton of faults, it definitely did do some crazy stuff and beat America in a lot of aspects. Like it beat
I agree.
beat America
Yeah,
in
the
space
Soviet
race.
Union in terms of the
that's
space
saying
race was
something.
amazing. Yeah, I agree.
Yeah, crazy.
Totally. It's a
So-
testament to the power of a strong government. Sure. I don't disagree that government can't do a lot of good things. I just disagree with hey, we got to ditch this whole capitalism thing, because I think capitalism also does good things.
Yeah. I hear you diss on communism a lot, which I think is relatively reasonable. But what do you think the strongest stance for a socialist or communist would be? Like from all your experiences.
The strongest stance?
Yeah. Like if
Probably
you were going to
market
steal
socialism,
man.
because then at least it ends up being largely compatible with modern systems, and I mean, it's a little quixotic, but I mean it's doable.
Yeah, I guess. I don't see any. I see a lot of problems with large scale, like communism, like especially command economies. Like that's a entire different bucket of fish, and it's awful. But in smaller scales, I don't see any problem with. Do you see any problems?
I'm sorry, repeat that.
Do you see any problems with like communism in like a small setting, like a town setting?
Communism
where,
in
like,
a small setting?
Yeah, like a community-based thing.
Yeah, I'm not against it as long as you're not forcing everybody else to do that. Yeah, go ahead and go.
What do you mean
have fun. Well, I mean, let's say if you made your commune, right, and then there exists, I don't know, like a 55+ community next to you, they have a right to exist. And you have zero right to go over there and be like, no, you can't do that. But that works, right? Because it's a capitalist system that allows for that to be even a thing. You just have to own that land, which is fine. It's just buy it from the bank, wait 15 or 30 years, and there you go.
Right.
You own the land.
Well, I guess I can talk to you, Max, about the monetary thing, since I personally don't see any reason why you would want to remove money. It seems like an extremely useful thing that all civilizations have used, except maybe like tribes. Like there's a reason why it appears in the far reaches of civilization. It's mad useful.
In the paradigm of
liquidity, powerful
trading and scarcity, yes. But if you switch the paradigm to all your basic needs are covered, then you don't need money.
But the problem is not the fact that your basic needs are covered. It's the point that it's liquid. It's easily accessible. Do you understand the argument behind that?
Yeah, within, but you're still within that. You're describing that within the paradigm of scarcity in capitalism.
There's
If you don't
always
have
scarcity.
you
There will-
don't need money.
As
How
long
about
as
this?
there's a single Earth, there will always be scarcity. Doesn't matter what system you put it in. It will always, always, always be scarce. There's nothing you can
Okay.
do
No, there
about that. Yes,
How about
that is the
No,
case.
hold on.
No,
My
Resources
rebuttal
are
to that
finite
is that
on the one Earth.
we grow enough food
There's
to
two
feed,
different-
clothe, and house
Yes, and
everyone.
then you have to
The
take
truly
that item
important
from point A to
resources.
point B.
Hold on. In the middle of a sentence, I think I was. If you, there are very few things that are truly not renewable, right? Food. The important things are renewable. Food, we can plant trees to make shelter. We can do a bunch of stuff. Like we can plant cotton to make clothes and etc. etc. The problem is that within capitalism, it's ingrained into the system this whole idea of perceived scarcity and manufactured scarcity. If we truly valued our resources, we wouldn't be building stuff that cannot be repaired, cannot be upgraded. We would try to conserve our resources better.
Even under renewable resources, things are scarce. There's an X amount of land, and there's only so much that can be planted in that portion of land. That means there's an X amount that is available within a year. And that would exist for the entire globe because there's only one globe. That would mean that
we already
there's,
produce
but no,
food
it's
enough
not
for everyone.
I understand that, but it's not that simple. Number one,
Yes, it is.
No, it's not. The reason why it's not is number one, food goes bad. Number two, you need to be able to take the product from point A and put it to point B. And not only do you have to take that product from point A to point B, it also has to be packaged in a way that somebody can even buy it to begin with, right? Because somebody isn't buying wheat, they're buying bread. Right? They're generally not going to buy wheat and then like mill their own wheat and then like separate the whites from like the browns and then like try to like make their own yeast and make bread. They're not going to do that. Okay. So given that fact and that you live in this Euclidean universe, that would mean that these products, no matter what, are finite. It is always finite because you're on one Earth. It must be that way. It doesn't change.
Wait.
The fact that you get angry at this is kind of funny, actually.
Because it's
But
because
in
it's
Minecraft,
like
there's
obvious
an
to me.
infinite-
I don't know. It's obvious.
But in Minecraft, there's an infinite.
Yeah, but again, you're still
Yeah,
thinking
exactly.
within the capitalist
No,
paradigm.
it's not.
That's
No,
the hardest thing
stop.
to get
It has nothing to do with the capitalist
is to
paradigm.
Just
Wait, yes, it
extract
does.
yourself
No,
from.
stop. It doesn't.
Okay.
It doesn't. It does not.
Yes, it
Mr.
does.
Mender,
No.
Yes, it does,
give
though.
me
But
give
No.
me a
your
shot at this.
entire
No.
Wait, your
It doesn't matter if the
definition-
workers own the
Render,
means of
you
production
yelling
or not.
no won't make your
Wait,
argument better.
Okay. First Amendment.
Wait.
Give me a. I'll try and explain it. Okay, so let's say I'll give an example. Let's say you're a 17th century bloke. You don't even need 17th century, whatever. Okay, so you've got a daughter and you want to buy for her birthday. Want to give her a rocking horse, and like obviously you don't know how to make a rocking horse, whatever. But there's a toy maker, right, who does this kind of stuff. And what you do is like you grow cucumbers, for example. And so you walk over to this toy maker and say, hey, I want to get a toy and I can trade you some cucumbers. And then the toy maker says, oh, I don't like cucumbers. And like, what are you going to do there? Like, I guess the best thing to do in a non-monetary economy per se, quote unquote, is to look for someone who does want cucumbers, but also has something that the toy maker wants. And that is extremely convoluted. It's much easier just to cut through everything and just say, hey, I can sell my cucumbers for a money that can be traded towards the toy maker, and so I can have a much more direct like financial transaction, which is really, really damn useful. And since we want things to be as efficient as possible, that's huge. Especially if there's no one.
I understand that, but
I just
in
realized
a truly
it's on like
socialist
15
system,
minutes. Sorry, pause for a second. I actually have to get going. I have to like start editing these videos, and yeah, I'll talk to y'all later. I really appreciate the conversation. That was great. I do this every Thursday, 6:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. So like if y'all want to like come up and debate, then we're open to do so. All right, thanks.
Well, before you go, real quick, word of advice: when we're doing proportionate, like to population, you have to take that into account rather than this population versus this population. Like that's just mad important.
Okay.
Like this is why you're not understanding the proportionate amount of deaths that happened underneath the American system.
I got to get going. Like I said, like I understand you have a point to make, but like I sincerely got to get going. I'm already like 15 minutes past time.
Okay, ciao.
So, that was fun. I will edit this video and have full videos up to watch later.